Attention! Attention! Survivors of London! The Daleks are the masters of Earth!
The Daleks?
Surrender now and you will live. Resist and you will be exterminated. Show yourself in the streets immediately and obey the orders of your masters, the Daleks.
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always, I am joined with...
Hello, it's Scott.
Hello, Scott. It is a special episode this week. It is, the second anniversary of the show, which means the third year that we've been doing this podcast, which is...
crazy.
Fucking insane. I can't, I'm very glad that we've continued doing it as much because, it's a lot of fun. It's nice to just sit and talk about Doctor Who once a week and stress about having to edit a 4-hour podcast.
Well, you stress about it. I don't. I just sit around peacefully.
You just hit upload, Yeah. But it's been a lot of fun, and it's done nothing but continue to grow nice, and like the little podcast that could. It's just chugged along. We don't do gangbuster numbers. We're not living off this. This is purely at this point hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this year specifically has been the best year for the podcast for us, which is a really, really good sign because hopefully it continues that trend.
We're only halfway through a month and it's been a good year so far. So,
we're halfway through the month and it's been a good year.
Well,
that's a really good sentence.
Halfway through a year and it's been a good year so far. Did I say halfway through a month?
You said we're halfway through the month and it's been a really good year. So clearly you've had a terrible month. It's felt like a year.
But yeah, the 60th is just round the corner and series 14 is like less than a year at this point. Less than a year away. So I think good times ahead.
Interest in Doctor Who's going to skyrocket. I can't even talk now. Interest in Doctor Who's going to skyrocket, which means people are going to want to listen to podcasts where both the hosts don't know how to talk. But to celebrate our second anniversary on the podcast, we are looking at Doctor Who and the Daleks' Invasion of Earth 2150 AD, which is the worst title for a Doctor Who film of all time.
Well, actually, it's called Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. That's the official title. I always get the title wrong too. It's a very specific title because it's got the little, what do you call it? The little thing next to the Dalek, so it belongs to the Dalek. A
colon. An apostrophe. Yeah. It's the Daleks invasion.
And then you got the semi-dash as well.
Yeah, so the Daleks own the invasion of Earth 2150 AD. It's a weird title. It is a weird title. But we are looking at that because last year, for our first anniversary for the show, we looked at Doctor Who and the Daleks, which was the first film to this. It's the episode titled Grand Moff Tarkin Was the Doctor, which you can find in our spin-off section on YouTube, or just scroll down the feed and you will see it. It is a very, very fun episode and a very strange movie. And this movie is equally strange and a lot better in a lot of ways. And maybe a little bit more boring, perhaps in some other ways. But we will see as we take a very, very nice little deep dive into this one. I'm expecting this to be a long episode because the movie itself is 90 minutes, and I'm sure you've got a crap ton to talk about, and I've got a little bit to talk about. So let's just dive straight in.
Honestly, I don't have too much to talk about because everything I need to talk about happened with the first movie. There's like no production change. There's no difference in director or anything. So. This movie was...
they just made a second one.
Yeah, this movie was made 1 year after the first one, so it's a very quick turnaround.
Yeah. This movie first aired on August 5th, 1966, which was a Friday, and at the time of recording, 56 years, 9 months, and 8 days ago. Yes, a long time. At the time, the US president was Lyndon B. Johnson, and the UK prime minister was one Harold Wilson. Some interesting events that happened on this day. Martin Luther King Jr. is stoned during a Chicago march. So, you know,
not the good type of stoned.
No, not the good type of
very
stoned.
bad type of stoned.
Yeah, the racist throwing actual stones off you type of stoned, which is not good, but also really I think is important to mention because it highlights the era that we're in. We are in the height of the civil rights movement, you know, which is wild to think about. Like how, like it's easy to say like Doctor Who started 60 years ago, but it's really hard to put into context exactly what the world was like 60. Like it was a completely different place.
God.
And somehow this show has continued throughout all of that history, you know.
Dude, this movie is directly inspired by World War II, which happened only 20 years before the movie came out, which is insane to think about.
Yeah, that's crazy. The Beatles released their hit single Yellow Submarine with Eleanor Rigby in the UK, and this is also when John Lennon said the Beatles are more popular than Jesus, which fair enough, I guess.
Have you seen Yellow Submarine, the movie?
I've not.
Oh,
no,
it's fucking great. I fucking love the movie, and I think you would love it even more because, you know, you're the type of person who would enjoy it with some added things to it.
I imagine it would be a good time, for sure. I quite like the Beatles as well. I don't really listen to much of their music recreationally, but I did watch that like 9-hour documentary on Disney Plus by Peter Jackson about the Beatles, and that was amazing. Just watching the remastered footage and them making right songs, it's a really good time. I recommend watching it.
I still need to watch it.
I watched each episode in 2 parts. It made it much more manageable to get through. But yeah, it's a good time. The number 1 film at the box office in the US. I'll give you a spoiler now. It's not Doctor Who and Daleks Invasion of Earth.
Not even Doctor Who.
2150
Doctor Who isn't even part of the title.
AD. Yeah, whatever it's called. You know, it's not that. And I would be honestly super impressed with you if you could guess it, but I'm going to let you have a chance anyway. What do you think is number 1, 1966?
Is that the only hint you're giving me?
It's not Daleks Invasion of Earth, and let's see. I don't know enough about the film to really say how how up are you on which movies got nominated for Best Picture during the 1960s?
Not at all.
Well, there's your clue.
So it got nominated for an Oscar. That's what you're saying?
It got nominated for 13 Oscars.
But so you're saying the movie won an Oscar?
No, I'm saying the movie got nominated for 13 Oscars.
Jesus Christ!
I don't think it won 5. It won 5 Oscars, nominated for 13.
1966.
1966.
Was it the 10 Commandments? I'm just making things up.
It was not, although I've tried sitting through that movie. It's unbearable. It was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which is a movie title I am familiar with, but I'm not familiar with the contents of the movie. This movie was number 1 in the box office from the 1st of July until August 31st. Jesus. A solid 2 months. Number 1 at the box office, which is partly due to it just being the 60s, and they didn't really release that many movies in the cinemas, so it was easy to stay at the top and be there. But here's some stuff from the Wikipedia, because it is a genuinely interesting sounding movie. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is a 1966 American drama film directed by Mike Nichols in his directorial debut. The screenplay by Ernest Lemon is an adaptation of Edward Albee's 1962 play by the same name. It stars Elizabeth Taylor as Martha, Richard Burton as George Segal as Nick, and Sandy Dennis as Honey. The film depicts a hostile late-night gathering at the home of a college professor and his wife. The film was nominated for 13 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Mike Nichols. It is one of only 2 films to be nominated in every eligible category at the Academy Awards. The other film is a movie called Cimarron. All 4 main actors actors who were nominated in their respective acting categories, and the first time a film's entire credited cast was nominated. The film won 5 Oscars, including second Academy Award for Best Actress for Taylor and Best Supporting Actress for Dennis. In 2013, the film was selected by the Library of Congress in the United States for preservation in the United States National Film Registry as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Sounds like a goddamn banger of a movie.
Yeah.
Sounds ace. Sounds like an ace time. And for a directorial debut,
yes.
I like. How do you follow that up?
You probably couldn't. One hit wonder, I'd imagine. What else did we do?
Let's find out. Let's find out what else he directed. Mike Nichols. I don't need his Wikipedia page. I just want to look at his movies. I think he's still alive. No, he died in 2014. He was making movies. Let's see. Anything I recognize? Nope, not really seeing any other movies I recognize. Is there anything on his Wikipedia that is like notable movies?
Well, one of his final movies, Closer and Charlie Wilson's War, received positive reviews and were both nominated for Academy Awards, BAFTA, and Golden Globe Awards. So I presume he still continued a successful career.
Well, his second film was called The Graduate, came out in 1967, starring Dustin Hoffman, made him a millionaire because it was the highest grossing movie of 1967, and he got 16% of those profits, and he won an Oscar for Best Director in that, and it got nominated for 7 Academy Awards. So this is a guy that just pumped out Oscar movies.
He created massive movies. In the 90s, he did Postcards from the Edge, which was basically the autobiography from Carrie Fisher. It was about her drug addiction, I believe. It was basically fictionalized into this movie starring Meryl Streep, and he did a movie called The Birdcage, which is a massive LGBTQ plus movie, which with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane. It's like one of the most popular queer movies of all time. He did movies with Harrison Ford, Jack Nicholson, Michelle Pfeiffer. So he's a massive director. Yeah,
this is a guy whose filmography I kind of want to dive into, because it sounds like this dude makes nothing but hits, and I've never heard of him before.
Oh, he did.
He
did Working Girl with Harrison Ford and Sigourney Weaver. That movie is apparently amazing. So yeah.
This guy's got a filmography that's worth checking out. So Mike Nichols, look him up if you're into cinema. Because goddamn, hit after hit after hit. But speaking of other hits and other phenomenal movie experiences.
Oh, I'm sorry. In 1977, Nichols produced the original Broadway production of a hugely successful musical, Annie.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Damn. Let's just turn this into the Mike Nichols podcast, because this guy is apparently just the best filmmaker of all time that no one's heard of. That's incredible. God damn. But yeah, anyway, speaking of great films, Scott, why don't you take us into whatever you've got for the writer's corner for Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. That's the proper title. Terrible title.
Yeah, so obviously Doctor Who was dropped from this title because the film producers thought, hey, people aren't that interested in Doctor Who as a title itself, so let's drop it. Especially Americans who didn't know what Doctor Who was. Dalek is a more intriguing concept, because I imagine Dalek was more familiar to like the general British audience than Doctor Who was. Daleks were huge, especially after that first movie.
Yeah, for sure. Dalek Mania, we talked about it quite a bit. Was it last year in the anniversary we talked about Dalek Mania?
It would have been the first movie. So yeah, if you want to listen to a lot more behind the scenes stuff, listen to the first review, because obviously, as I said, the entire production team basically was the same for this movie, including the director, the producer. Most of the cast got replaced for the better in some parts.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first movie got released on 23rd of August 1965, and it was a massive hit. And by December of that year, they already announced that the second movie was going to be made. And it got released less than a year later, on 5th of August, 1966. So it's like 50 weeks later. Insane turnaround.
Insane. That is an insane turnaround.
So yeah, this one has a bigger budget. It has locations and model work, which weren't in the budget for the first film. The first film was famous for having a massive set. One side of the set was the Foul Forest, and the other side of the set was the Dalek City. Beautiful sets, and the sets in this one and the location work are fucking ace. I love all the location and all the models of this movie.
Yeah, they're good. They're good in this movie as well. I liked, I really liked this movie's got like a much clearer, better production value, but for me, I feel like it loses a bit of that weird vibe that the first movie had. The first movie, when you're on Scarrow and you're in the like Dalek City and everything's kind of jank, and there's like, but there's like this cool like 60s vibe to everything. It's a good time. You get a bit of that here when they're in the Dalek ship, but not as much as I would want.
Yeah, I love the Dalek ship in this movie. We'll get to that. And I feel like this movie is missing out on the location work, because if you go back to the 1960 TV serial, the locations are amazing, because this was the first time Doctor Who actually shot on location. Like, they're in front of, you can see Daleks in front of Big Ben and all that, and Trafalgar Square, and every famous location in London, basically. Whereas there's most of the famous locations are sets in this movie, or they're just kind of out in the countryside somewhere.
Yeah, I think you've hit on one of the issues I had with the movie, and I couldn't quite place what it was, because I've seen the original TV serial, and seeing the Daleks in all those iconic locations is one of the reasons why that serial is so famous. And I was looking forward to seeing it in this movie, and then was like, oh, it never happened.
Yeah.
And that was a bit disappointing.
I presume it would have been harder for this movie production studio to get the license to actually film in London compared to the BBC, because obviously the BBC are more, they have more respect with the government because they are funded by the government. So
well,
not
actually,
anymore.
they're funded by the people. They're funded by the people, not the government. BBC's going to come after you like they did Elon Musk.
Oh, fuck that. So yeah, obviously the talks to do the sequel started near the end of the production of the first movie, because they felt the first one was going to be a massive hit, and they were right. It was the top 20 box office for 1965, which in those days was a huge success, because can you think of...
I mean, to be fair, they only made 20 movies in 1965, so...
but can you think of any like modern British movies that reach the top 20 box office? I can't think of any.
I can only think like James Bond.
Yeah,
really,
James
would be it.
And even James Bond is entirely funded by Americans. That's MGM. So
yeah. But it's filmed partly in Britain sometimes.
Roberta Tovey was obviously one of the cast members that came back playing Susan. She was told that Peter Cushing said he'd only do the second movie if she was in it. She agreed to do it, so that's apparently the only reason why the second movie carried on, because Peter Cushing really wanted her back, which is interesting. I'm not sure if it was a tactic by the director to really get her back, or if Peter Cushing was that dead set on having her come back. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's fine. I like the girl that plays Susan. I think she does a decent job.
She was more of the focus of the first one. This one, she kind of...
Yeah, she's got like a weird subplot with that dude, and like, I'm like, okay, cool. She's not as into it as she was into it in the first one. But I liked the fact that she was back, because it gave at least some coherent continuation with these characters. Like, we're only really... Is Barbara the same actor?
No,
I would imagine so.
In this movie,
I got face blindness, man.
No, it's actually hard to notice because she does nothing in this movie. This is actually Doctor Who's other niece called Gillian. I think.
Okay. I would never, if you pose that to me as like a question, like who's traveling with the Doctor, I would have said Susan and Barbara just straight away.
Yeah.
Because I did not pick up that was even a different character. My God.
I don't blame you, because she does nothing apart from get locked in a closet for a bit and then gets rescued by Bernard Cribbins.
Yeah, but okay. Well, Susan, being the cast member that returns for this one, allows for a bit of continuity between the films, and her dynamic with Peter Cushing is sweet enough where you're like, oh, I kind of like these two together. You have like a charming chemistry, so I like it.
Yeah, so the woman who actually played Barbara was busy, as was the man who played Ian, Roy Castle. So we decided to swap out the characters with two new ones. Gillian was played by Jill Curzon. So I imagine they named the character after the actress, because it's just a general case of laziness.
Actually, they named the actress after the character. They named the actress was named after the character. The parents had big plans.
But Jill Curzon didn't actually do too much acting. She was only active between 1962 and 1969, so she didn't have much of a professional career. She did episodes of Adam Adamant, The Champions, and a Disneyland TV special. That's basically the only notable stuff in her career. As part of the promotion for the film, she had to do a lot of bikini shots of her posing next to a Dalek, which is very outdated and kind of
that's a very 60s way of advertising a movie. I don't even understand like why you would want to advertise the movie that way, because if you're like look at we've got a sexy lady next to a Dalek, you want to come see our sci-fi movie because it's got aliens and sexy ladies in bikinis. Then you watch the movie and you're like, what? Where was the bikini? There was no bikini here. I hate this movie. Give me my money back. It feels like backwards marketing. Like you're just promising something you're never gonna deliver on.
It's like a famous clip from The Simpsons where they go see the movie Naked Lunch, and Nelson, the bully character, is like, "I want all my money back because the film title is just so misleading. There is no naked lunch in the movie."
Exactly. It's exactly like that.
But yeah, apparently there was a big thing about her being in the movie because she's very attractive. Apparently, I don't really see much in her, to be honest.
I don't remember what she looks like. I could not pick her out of a crowd.
I like her Sherlock Holmes-esque shirt she's wearing. It's very nice. That's all I really notice about her, to be honest.
Did I watch this movie? I remember her at all.
But if you want to look at the Italian poster for this movie, she is front and center, and she's getting strangled by a robot man, and it's like, okay, I guess she was I don't know if you can find it on Google, but it's in the Doctor Who and the Dalek book, which
no, I found it immediately. Yeah, I just searched Doctor Who Dalek Invasion of Earth Italian poster, and she's in like the red dress with the guy's hand over her mouth.
So yeah, like, she is bigger than a Dalek in that poster, which is kind of wild.
There's even like a shot of her like looking to this, like a giant headshot of her looking up to the stars.
Yeah,
like,
it's interesting to just see the marketing in other countries.
Yeah, but it's like Peter Cushing's name is in big writing, but he's not on the poster. Like, what a weird poster. Although it's a vibe. I do like 60s posters. They're especially sci-fi posters. They're so strange.
If you like sci-fi posters, you should actually get this book, Doctor Who and the Daleks, the official story of the films. It's this massive coffee table sized book.
Coffee sized table. Is that what you said?
But it is a beautiful book, and it's where I got most of my research from, so I'm just giving this book a big shout out. It's by John Walsh. It's really nice. It's got beautiful pictures, beautiful high quality pictures. It's a great book, and it's got all the posters to this film, and it's just fun looking at all the posters. I mean, obviously, another big addition to this film is Bernard Cribbins, who plays Tom Campbell in this movie. Before this, or around this time, he was obviously famous for The Wombles, The Railway Children, Doctor Who, Old Jack's Boat, Jack and Ori, massive children's TV star.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes, and gem of a man, apparently. He is everybody's grandpa, Bernard Cribbins.
oh god,
Love him.
I'm so looking forward to seeing him in the 60th anniversary, even though I will
Oh my god,
cry.
yeah. Oh, it's going to be heartbreaking, yeah.
Cribbins had actually worked with Cushing the year before in the movie She. Cribbins described Cushing's performance in this movie, Doctor and the Daleks, as a bubbling old gentleman, and he was always looked to me as if he was about to. He was just finishing a mint, and then he would speak, which is an interesting way to describe his performance.
Yeah. Just finishing. What does someone look like when they're just finishing a mint? That's such an interesting description.
Such an interesting 1960s way to describe a person.
Yeah.
So yeah, immediately after shooting this film, he'd go to do Casino Royale, which was actually shot next door in the studio at the same time as this movie. Actually, during lunch breaks, the cast would mingle with the cast and crew of a James Bond movie, while Bernard Cribbins would just go off and fish.
Fair enough, yeah.
And he was also actually considered for the role of the Fourth Doctor. When Barry Letts asked what he could do, he said, "I can ride a horse, I can swim, I was a paratrooper, and I can fight too." According to Cribbins, Barry Letts was shocked when he revealed he could fight too, because there would be no fighting for the Doctor. And when he watched Tom Baker episodes, he's like, Tom Baker is strangling this man in this episode. What do you mean there's no fighting for this Doctor?
Yeah, it's the weird inconsistency of logic when it comes to Doctor Who casting is always something special, isn't it?
To be fair, Barry Letts was the outgoing producer at the time, and the new producer was Philip Hinchcliffe with Robert... Fucking hell, I can't remember names. With Robert Holmes as the script editor, who obviously wanted a huge, darker tone to this show, so that's why Tom Baker's Doctor was more violent in comparison to what Barry Letts wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Peter...
Which is great.
Peter Cushing came back, although he's not in this movie too much. He was actually ill for a lot of the production. The production finished 11 days late because of this. However, Peter Cushing made an insurance claim for $30,000 for the extra days of filming. Cushing had to be written out for some scenes here and there. They had to pack strike the set, meaning they would shoot scenes without Cushing, tear down the set, and stuck it into storage, and then we would put it back up very quickly when Cushing was better. So, another nightmare to shoot around Peter Cushing.
It sounds awful. That sounds absolutely awful. That genuinely just sounds like it would be a huge hassle. And what more, back then, the way that we used to shoot things, and it's talked about quite a lot with George Lucas's A New Hope, Star Wars, when he was shooting that in the 70s, because he shot that in London, how much he hated doing it because of how strict the rules were for filming. There's a hard out for filming. You have 6 tea breaks a day. So imagine you're trying to shoot a movie. You have to follow all these rules, take all these breaks, and you have a hard out at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And your main star is off sick. And you have to, that is, what a nightmare that must have been to film. My God.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine. Even today it's difficult. Shitty Gatwa wasn't available for the first month of shooting for Series 14, and they had to shoot around him. Which, again, that's a last-minute delay because he was busy shooting Sex Education. So, absolute nightmare. There's if one thing is off, the entire production is off.
Yeah, it's just falling dominoes.
So this movie actually got a different art director, George Provis. He got larger sets and less time to actually make the props and the sets work. So he had to rely on more hired props pieces from a prop house. I would say the sets look very good in this movie. I think they're ace.
Sorry, I was yawning. I think the sets are really, really good in this movie as well. And also, immediately recognizable to the original Doctor Who story. I forgot that this was the adaptation of the story where Susan says goodbye to the Doctor. until I saw them travel through time, and they come out in the wreckage in like that, and of that like the little like London bit, and I was like, oh crap, that building looks exactly like the one that I saw Hartnell and that come out. That's crazy. That looks exactly like the same building.
Yeah. The editor of this movie was Anne Chegwidden. Sabotsky, the producer, claims that the film was made in the cutting room. The story at points made no sense, and it was a huge rush to put the edit together because they had less than a year. It's insane just how this movie was made in a way that it makes sense now. This edit is really good considering all the trouble. You could see how the edit could make no sense in the room. Certain points where there's ADR and...
Yeah, I mean, like, there's weird... Like, this movie tonally, I think, is more inconsistent than the first one. You know, there's, like, some strange slapstick moments. There's these really long moments where we're not with the main cast. We're with just Bernard Cribbins, and it's, like, a silent film where there's just music playing. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, and I would say the pacing is very off as well in this movie, because sometimes you get, like, 10 minutes of pure action, and then it just randomly shuts off, and it's very slow again for some reason. It's odd pacing, but whenever the action is going on, it's amazing. I love this. And the action scenes was done with the purpose of getting in as many murders as possible, because children actually wrote in complaining in the first one that the Daleks did not murder enough people. So in this movie, they have a high body count for that reason. Like, oh god, the body count.
I love bloodthirsty children. They want more death on the screen, please. The Daleks didn't murder enough people.
The original title to this movie was called Daleks Invade Earth, which is simpler, I guess.
Oh, I guess Daleks Invade Earth is a better title than Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD, but it's still a bad title.
Yeah.
I think any title it would be better though than the title that they settled on, because Dalek Invasion Earth 2150 AD is a goddamn garbage title. It's too long. Like it sounds like broken English, and the inclusion of the year immediately makes you go, I don't care. Like, you know.
Yeah, whereas the original serial was called The Daleks Invasion of Earth, which is... It makes sense to me. It's a perfect title. Even though
way better.
That was later revisionism. I think it was originally called At World's End, because the serials didn't have an actual title when it was collected together, because obviously...
They go on a pub crawl.
The famous Cornetto movie. Because obviously the serials each had different episode titles, so it wasn't one uniform title for each story at that time.
Mm-hmm.
The budget on this film is 60% increase over the first, which was pretty massive, and I think that's the reason why this movie didn't turn out that good in the box office, but we'll get there. Gordon Fleming said they were in a rush to make this one because we wanted to keep the cash machine rolling before the popularity of the first one died down. So, you know, and also this was just 6 months after the Dalek had a 3-month run on TV with the Dalek Master Plan, which is a 12-part story. So the 60s were...
I tell you, if you didn't like Daleks in the 60s, you were having a terrible time. You just couldn't escape them. God damn.
So yeah, in August 1965, we had the Dalek movie, and then we had 3 months of the Daleks between like December to February. And then this movie came out in August, and I could imagine some people being like, okay, I am fucking sick of the Daleks, please. Please, no more.
Yeah.
It's incredible how much Daleks there was.
That is, yeah. That's wild. That is wild.
And also the film company around this time was failing, so, you know, why not make a sequel to our biggest hit of all time? That makes so much sense.
Yeah, I'm not questioning the reason it got a sequel. I kind of questioning rushing it out. Like, that's such short-term logic, I think, of the first one was successful. Quick, let's get a second one so that we can try and grab as much money as possible, rather than, oh, the first one was successful, let's take our time to make the second one so that fans of the first one will come and watch it, and we'll make just the same amount of money, if not more, because more people will have seen the first one in the time between.
Yeah.
But I guess it was harder to watch movies as, that weren't in the cinema back then as it is now to watch. Just like, I could just put on a movie right now if I wanted and watch it and then be like, oh, that was cool. And then like 5 years time, oh, they made a second one. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because we just had Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, for example, and it's been 5 years since the last movie. If I wasn't able to rewatch...
God, was it 5 years since Volume 2?
Basically, 2017.
Oh my god.
Would that be 6 years?
Oh.
Hold on. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 6 years between these two movies. Guardians Volume 2 and 3.
That's gross.
So,
it feels like 3 years max.
So, if we didn't have Disney Plus or DVDs, you could easily forget that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 even existed. And Volume 3 comes out and you're like, oh, I kind of forgot what happened in the last movie. I'm not really interested in that anymore. Whereas it's still in the public consciousness because it had the home media release.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
20 Daleks were used in this film. 5 of them were borrowed from a stage production called The Curse of the Daleks, which played for a month in London over the Christmas period of 1965. So, Dalek mania yet again strikes.
Yeah, Jesus.
This play was written by David Whittaker, who also contributed to this film. The same props were then given to Terry Nation, the creator of the Daleks, which is he was photographed with when he was trying to sell the Daleks as an idea of a TV show in the 60s as well, which never came to be. And we actually just talked about the unmade pilot on our Genesis of the Daleks episode.
Yes, which you can listen to after this episode if you so desire. You'll be able to find it on our YouTube page and in your podcast feed.
Yeah, and to promote this movie, cardboard cutouts of Daleks would appear in cinemas. Quaker Oats, who make Sugar Puffs, which is now called Honey Monster Puffs, ran a competition. 3 lucky winners would win a full life-sized film Dalek, and they could actually get inside and control it. I think the same competition was run for the first movie, which again is...
That sounds awesome. I want to do that.
If I was a kid in the 60s, I would want to enter this competition, but I imagine my mum would say no because of lack of room. Could you imagine trying to fit a life-size Dalek into your bedroom?
I don't care. I want it. Oh, keep it outside. I'll feed it myself. You don't have to look after it. I'll look after it.
And of course, we're going to see Sugar Puffs quite a bit in this movie itself, because this was one of the earliest examples of a product placement in a movie, because you can see posters at many points during the film. They basically helped fund most of it, well, not most of the film, but part of the film at least. So that's why Sugar Puff posters are everywhere.
They are noticeably everywhere as well. More noticeable now because it's not called Sugar Puffs anymore. It's called the Honey Monster, whatever. But they were to me they're still Sugar Puffs because they were called Sugar Puffs when I was a kid. And I can't believe that, by the way, that we just had a cereal that was called Sugar, and we were like, this is a healthy cereal. We should just eat this all the time. Healthy sugar cereal. In the late
2000s, they started cutting down on sugar. It was made a law that you couldn't have sugar in your kids' cereal.
Yeah. That's the one good thing about not living in the one of the many good things really about not living in the US is we regulate our food quite a lot, especially when it comes to sugar intake. So our cereals are much healthier.
Have you ever had Lucky Charms?
Not great for you, but no, yes, I have. I had them when I was in Florida. I went on holiday to Florida as a kid. I had Lucky Charms, and they were fine. I liked the sugary marshmallow bits.
Same.
But that the rest of it's just regular cereal, but it just tastes sweet. But Americans are weird. They have sugary bread and everything. It's crazy.
I probably had 5 or 6 bowls of Lucky Charms, and the best bit is the sugary marshmallow bits, but that's just pure sugar. It's not healthy for you in the slightest. Whereas here, Cocoa Pops is as healthy as it could possibly be, because every time I see their packaging, it always says 30% less sugar. They keep reducing the sugar intake.
I don't remember the last time I had Cocoa Pops. I've gotten really into bran flakes recently.
Wow.
Which is just the realization that, oh no, I'm becoming a grown up. Because I remember being a kid trying bran flakes and going, this is the worst cereal I've ever had in my life. This is just cardboard. This is flavorless cardboard. And now I eat it and I'm like, raisins, this is good.
Yeah.
But like, you know, when you're a kid, you crave that sweetness. And I actually quite liked Sugar Puffs as a kid. We never got them too often, but I remember they had like a weird stickiness.
Yeah.
They were like a weird, because they were like honeyed cereal,
Yeah.
so they were like weirdly sticky. But they were pretty good.
Same here,
It's
yeah.
been a while since I had them.
My favorite
Yeah.
go-to cereal, well, not even cereal, but breakfast food is just general Weetabix with bananas cut into it.
Weetabix. Okay, I'm still when it comes to Weetabix, I'm still a child. I'll put
Yeah.
sugar on the top.
That's what I used to do, but
of
not
my
anymore.
Weetabix. Yeah. I like a sugar on top of Weetabix, or I like mini Weetabix, the chocolate chip mini
yes.
Weetabix. Chocolate chip, those ones. Oh boy, I can annihilate them.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's good cereal. Yeah, good cereal.
We need to do a cereal podcast.
I like cereal. It's right now. It's my go-to breakfast. Is cereal, just because like I like toast a lot, but I have a big beard. Mainly, I have a big mustache on my beard, and if I'm eating something like that has a spread, it just gets in my mustache, and it becomes like a hassle. And I'm like, God, I feel like I'm like one of the twits from Roald Dahl, you know, and I just got like all these like bits of food in my beard. God, I'm just gonna throw in as many like UK references as I can to annihilate, to completely alienate our majority US audience that we have. Like,
Have you ever read the Scottish localization of the Twits?
I've seen bits of it.
It was
where it's all
really
written
good. I
in-
read that at school. It's really good. So yeah, with now on to the box office, because we're still talking about Daleks.
I like butteries as well. Butteries is a good breakfast.
Yeah,
Butteries,
you don't eat this because you're vegetarian, but I've been recently into bacon and cheese butteries. Very good.
Interesting. I don't put anything on my buttery. I'm a plain buttery dude. I don't toast it. I just eat it raw.
I mean, my store sells literally bacon and cheese inside the butter. It's baked into it.
Oh,
J.G.
like
Ross.
baked in. Jesus Christ.
It's really good.
Jesus Christ.
It's very expensive though. It's like £2.
I can imagine. Yeah. Like regular butteries aren't that cheap.
Yeah.
Like,
I love butteries though.
yeah. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so with the box office, critics were actually mixed, more so than the first one. Apparently they took issue with Peter Cushing's acting in general. They're like, what is this man doing? He's having a terrible time in his career. And Peter Cushing's like, well, I'm making people happy. I'm enjoying myself. I'm still getting constant work, so leave me alone.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, so this movie didn't actually make a profit during the original release, but it made money back with re-releases in cinemas and home media, so it eventually made its budget back. But sadly, by the time they wanted to make a third one, it was just way too late to make another one. He did have, Milton Subotsky did still have rights for a third film. He wanted to do The Chase, but plans were abandoned after his second one failed. The Chase is a story that I can't imagine being made into a film because it's very episodic. The Chase is such an insane episode that I want to cover someday, because there's an episode where they go to a creepy castle where Frankenstein and Dracula are in it, and then it's revealed it's like a fun fair attraction where Frankenstein and Dracula are robots. It's a wild story.
I am on my extremely slow, basically completely given up on watch of Classic Who. I was at like the end of the Space Museum, which would be like right at the start of the chase happening, but the Space Museum was so goddamn boring. I couldn't get through.
Yeah, I'd recommend watching The Chase. It's not a good story, but it is just the wildest story you've ever seen. It is a pure parody, basically.
Interesting.
And then during the 80s, he was also in touch with Tom Baker to actually produce his Scratchman script, which eventually turned into a book because Tom Baker really wanted a Scratchman movie, which was about spooky scarecrows and stuff. I haven't actually read the book, so...
Yes, I remember we've covered Scratchman a couple times. I remember the details about this. It's an interesting sounding story for sure.
And there's even talks of a third film in 1984, as far as 1990s as well. By 1990, Sapkowski revealed that he already had a screenplay written for a third movie, but couldn't get the rights back to Doctor Who, basically. It was going to be a giant monster film called Doctor Who's Greatest Adventure. It would star two doctors. One of the doctors would have either been played by John Pertwee or Tom Baker, and a younger doctor would have been played by a brand new actor. Subotsky wanted it to be a massive film with a 15 million budget. compared to this movie with a 260,000 budget. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like he knew it wasn't going to get made, and he was just fanficking at that point, because I'm wanting 15 million back then.
Yeah.
Like, that's never going to happen. The one thing that was interesting reading that was it's the two versions of the Doctor. I was like, how's that going to work? Because the Doctor in these movies is very much a human man. But just it being his younger self is like some time travel shenanigans. So can get on board with that. That makes sense.
My imagination would be that it would have been a tie-in to the movie, to the TV show, rather than like a sequel to his movies. So I don't think it would have been a third film in general, but like it'd be like a actual movie for Doctor Who, because this was the 90s and the show had been cancelled, and there was many talks of a movie being made during this time. We actually just covered all the talks of a movie being made and a TV series being made during our Dimensions in Time podcast, which we recorded a few months ago. We went all in.
Somehow it was already a few months ago. I cannot believe that.
So the script was actually repurposed from a script to an unmade film, which is unrelated to Doctor Who, called King Crab. And I guess his idea was, Doctor Who's off the air, people are wanting Doctor Who back. Why not just merge Doctor Who into this script and pitch that as an idea? But he couldn't get the rights. It would have been interesting to see for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like any weird Doctor Who project is interesting to learn about and be like, I kind of see that just out of morbid curiosity more than anything, you know? It's such a weird entity, Doctor Who. It can take in almost any form, you know?
Yeah, more movies like Doctor Who. Sorry, Daleks Invasion of Earth, 2150 AD.
Daleks Invasion Earth.
Oh, sorry.
There's no off.
The title is just... Yeah, we've said it, but the title is
Daleks
shit.
Invasion Earth. Daleks Invasion Earth. That's garbage. Because it's the Daleks' Invasion Earth. It doesn't even make sense. It's garbage. It's bad title.
But yeah, even this film is such an odd entity in the Doctor Who universe. There's only this film and the other one that's like outside of Doctor Who's canon that was officially released on TV screens or movie screens. It's wild that this film exists, and it would have been fascinating to see more stories get turned into big budget movies. I would have loved to see more.
It is. I would have liked to see more as well. I'm kind of glad that there isn't, because it makes these movies like weird oddities that are kind of like relics. I'm mainly glad that there isn't, though, because it just complicates the TV show. And like if you're like a casual fan, you're like, do I need to watch these movies? Are these movies connected? What's this about? What's going on here? You know, and if you just want to if you're making a movie that's not tied into the TV show in any way, and you're changing the characters as significantly as they changed them in this movie and in the other movie as well, like, why not just make it a random sci-fi show? You know, with Daleks, a sci-fi movie anyway, with Daleks. Why does the Doctor Who name need to be attached to it? Which is, I guess, why they got rid of the Doctor Who name in this one, because it honestly works as its own separate thing, not related to Doctor Who at all, you know, other than Daleks. But
yeah, and Doctor Who himself is hardly in this movie as well, so you could definitely see where a movie could be made where the Doctor isn't the focus of the movie. You know, Cybermen taking over a planet or something. You could do a movie like that.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Like a disaster, like a invasion movie from like a human's perspective, and then, oh my god, the aliens that show up are Cybermen.
Yeah.
You know, like you do like a what's it called? Oh my god, what's the really famous alien invasion movie that Spielberg did a remake of in the 90s or early 2000s
Spielberg.
with Tom Cruise?
War of the Worlds.
Yeah, you do like a War of the Worlds, but there's Cybermen.
Yeah.
Like,
So the final thing to talk about before we jump into the movie is the music. Subotsky wanted to change the direction of the music. He wanted a faster-paced, jazzy score. I can't remember too much of the first movie's music, but it was more slowly paced music, whereas this is just... This one feels more modern in comparison, I feel like. It feels like it was made today, pretty much.
they feel very much to me like time capsules of different points of the 60s, which is wild that they were only a year apart, but it's like, you know, this is like a very old school way of making a movie, and the music, especially like the music in this one, sure, it's a bit more like jaunty and whatever, but like my mind just goes to those really long slapstick scenes where we're just listening to music and nothing else.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is you couldn't have made this in any other year or any other decade other than the 60s. Like,
yeah, I agree. Bill McGuffey was hired as a musician. He took inspiration from John Barry, who scored 4 James Bond films. Bill McGuffey was an accomplished pianist, which was impressive because he actually lost his middle finger on his right hand as a kid when he trapped it in a telephone kiosk, which...
oh god, that must have sucked.
I've been in a
Jesus
similar
Christ.
situation with my left pinky, so why couldn't I have become a pianist, you know?
Well, you became a penis, so you were a penis anyway. So.
Oh, thank you very much. Anyway, do you want to jump into the movie? Or do you want to insult me?
I'll do both. I'm going to do both. As we look at Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. What a goddamn... It's such a bad title.
This is obviously the main shaft bored by the Daleks, leading straight to the fracture. Now, alongside it here is the original shaft of the old mine, which leads to the meeting point of the magnetic influence of the North and South poles.
That shaft is boarded up now.
Yes, but it is my belief that if we could somehow deflect their device down the old mine, the field of magnetism so released would be powerful enough to suck the Daleks into the very core of the Earth.
I know how we could deflect it.
Good. Tom, you were with him. Now, the rest of us must cause some sort of diversion.
I'm not in the rest of us.
No, I didn't think you would be. No profit in it, is there?
None. See you.
Now then, you two, on your way.
What kind of a diversion are you going to make?
You'll know when it happens, and when it does, get everybody away from this area as fast as you can.
Good luck.
What do you want us to do?
David, I want you to take Louise and find a good hiding place for her. Then help get the people away from the mine.
Right.
Well, what about you?
I shall stay here.
But-
I have a reason.
Well, why can't we stay here with you?
No. It is time for you to go. Take care of her.
The movie begins not the way you would really expect a Doctor Who movie to begin, and yet somehow a really good way for a Doctor Who movie to begin, and that is in the inside of a criminal's car. As we see Bernard Cribbins walking down the street. The criminal notices him and kind of like ducks away to hide, and then Bernard Cribbins gets distracted by a holiday trip advertised in the store window. He's looking at the pretty lady in the picture, and there's like a model plane, and he's like, oh, it's planes.
Yeah,
And then
I presume this is a characteristic that he wants to like travel to different places. So that leads to him in the TARDIS, but it's not really made clear enough that his intention is to travel, you know, to see new places. Because you know, it's a classic trope where a person who ends up space traveling wanted to go to travel Earth, but instead they go traveling for a time.
It's someone that's in like a dead end job or a monotonous routine, and suddenly they're wanting out of that routine, and then they get thrust out of it in the most like insane way possible, because you know they were like, I just wanted a holiday and now I'm on Mars. Type deal. It's a classic trope, but it works.
So in the original opening, Thomas was actually going to be a regular man who needed to make a phone call. He would arrive at Doctor Who's house only to realise their house phone was occupied, so he would use the phone. He'd use a police call box in the garden. Barbara was.
That is the most 1960s plot device of all time. I need to make a phone call, so I need to go to this stranger's house to use their landline.
In this original draft, Barbara was going to return, which was interesting. So I presume Roy Castle declined to make an appearance first. So and then Barbara declined to make an appearance. But I said her name was Jillian here. It's Louise. I was so wrong.
Yes.
The very memorable character of Louise, who I presume her last name is Who.
God.
So David Whittaker.
I have no idea.
David Whittaker suggested making Bernard Cribbin's character a policeman, and that he should stumble on the TARDIS while trying to call for backup, which is a much more interesting way to open up this story, because the first one opened up with Ian coming over to the house, and it would have just felt too samey for me. I like that this just opens up on a way that's very different to Doctor Who.
This intro feels more like Doctor Who to me, where it's you could imagine this in an episode of Doctor Who where you're following like a person or whatever, and they fall into a bit of trouble. They're like, oh my god, I need to get help. Oh, a police box, awesome. They fall in and they're like, what's going on here? It's bigger on the inside. There's a guy in here with a bunch of people. What? Oh my god, and then the Doctor Who credits. Like, it's a very Doctor Who. It's a great opening. It's a really, really good opening. But as we were saying, the criminal ducks away from Bernard Cribbins and then decides to get up again and get out the car and assault Bernard Cribbins. And he just starts beating the crap out of him. He execute style hits him across the back of the head with a baton. Bernard Cribbins collapses to the ground dead. And then there is a gigantic explosion and a ridiculously sized explosion. It's huge yellow flash. The door bursts open. Both the windows go flying out. A huge explosion. And you're like, what is going on here? And then a bunch of guys run out of the explosion.
Yeah,
which
doesn't make any sense.
What? These people are dead. These are dead people that are coming out. That doesn't make any sense at all. I like to my headcanon is that there's a safe or whatever, and they need to use dynamite to blow up the building or blow up the safe. I just hit my mic to blow up the safe, and they didn't realize how powerful dynamite actually is, and they brought too much dynamite. And whoever was in charge of the explosives fucked up, and they blew up. And they were like, we just got to get out of here quick, as the entire building burns down. But what's alarms and stuff start blaring, but we only see a couple lights turn on in people's homes.
Yeah, I feel like
people are I feel like everybody would be like, oh my god, there was a terrorist attack in the street.
But I feel like that's a plausible way of explaining what happened. I feel like maybe it was potentially intended to be that kind of joke, but they didn't think of, oh yeah, I guess we have to spend more money on building an interior to this building and also building a safe, and then also actually showing the explosion, because this explosion is really lights going on, and then smoke is really what's going on screen. I don't think there's any fire really.
No, but it's a good flashy looking explosion. It's a big flash.
Realistic, at least.
Yeah. This leads to Bernard Cribbins. All the criminals run into the car and drive off as Bernard Cribbins chases them down. Eventually runs into the police box where we see the Doctor Who, sorry, not the Doctor, Susan and Louise, the most memorable of the characters, performing various tasks inside the TARDIS. The TARDIS itself this time around looks a lot better than it did in the last movie. In the last movie, if you remember, it was just a bunch of cables and wires hanging around in what was very clearly a just back corner of the studio. This time, it's still very clearly a studio, even if you they leave the TARDIS door open and you can just see curtains on the outside of what's supposed to be the street, which is really funny. But the TARDIS is smaller, but feels more like a TARDIS. There's science devices everywhere and there's lights everywhere. It's a much better design.
There's these metallic machines with flashing lights in them, so it's futuristic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lights only flash in the
God,
future.
I still wonder how this old man invented this time machine that's somehow bigger on the inside. There's no explanation. But Doctor Who tries to explain it, but it doesn't make any sense. Bernard Cribbins is completely lost later on.
Yeah.
Also, great reveal of the TARDIS itself, where we got to a wide
yeah.
shot and Bernard Cribbins is chasing after the criminals on foot while they're getting away in the car. And the TARDIS is just at the corner of the screen. I imagine if you're watching this on 4x3 in the when it's televised in the 70s, the pan and scan would have been horrific on this shot because you need you need the full screen to appreciate this image. It is such a great introduction for the TARDIS.
It's a really modern introduction of the TARDIS as well. Like modern Who does this type of introduction all the time, where it's like something bad's going wrong, pan reveal, oh, the TARDIS is here, isn't this cool? It's really nice. It's also a really nice looking exterior for the TARDIS. The actual like police box looks fantastic. It's a really nice looking police box.
It is. It looks so good. It looks very modern as well. Just it looks perfect. It's perfectly painted. It doesn't look tattered like a lot of the TARDISes in classic Who. It looks really solid.
I think though, thinking of the interior of this TARDIS, I think the thing that's letting it down for me is the fact it's got black walls. You know, if you think like classic Who, the TARDIS is very famously white interior, which makes it feel more weird and futuristic-y, especially with the weird orbs everywhere. And then you go into modern Who, you know, the TARDIS is like yellow and then grey and whatever, and it's a bit more dull on the inside, but still fun and futuristic. And like Matt Smith's one was big, gold and bombastic and weird, whereas this one is just black curtains with silver machinery. Like there's no personality to the interior.
The problem you run into with this movie is they only had the copyright for the Daleks, no other imagery, so they couldn't, because obviously we could only use the TARDIS exterior because police boxes had no copyright and still don't. I saw 3 police boxes in the shape I saw 3 police boxes just in Glasgow the other day. Like I took pictures of it and showed Mafia, like, it's TARDIS. Like, they're... I'm surprised how
One
much...
was a falafel stand. One was a falafel stand.
It was.
That was so cool. But...
one of them was a vape stand. It's very bizarre.
Oh, amazing.
I imagine, I do wonder if the BBC are ever like, we need to get a copyright law on the exterior of the TARDIS, because obviously it's not used as a public call box anymore, and you know, what appears to be a TARDIS selling vapes is very interesting to me.
Like, although I think there needs to be more regulation around vapes anyway, but that's a completely different topic.
Because I was surprised when I saw the vape one. I'm like, that's so weird. And I remembered, there is no copyright on the police box itself, so anyone can use a police box and sell like porno magazines. And you know, kids.
But who sells porn? Who sells porn?
Oh
magazines?
God, where is it?
Like besides you to weird old men in your shop, like who sells?
Okay, I don't sell.
Who sells those magazines?
Okay, as for context, I don't sell porn magazines. It's the Daily Sport, or whatever you want to call it, where it's a sport magazine. Newspaper, but inside they'll have naked ladies.
Yeah, it's a sport newspaper. That's what you tell your wife.
And then there was like a store in my town that recently closed, but was open for like 100 years, and they have like porn magazines and porn DVDs right up to the counter. So you'd be walking you'd be walking to pay for your Mars bar, and you look to the left of you, and you just see
pick
boobs.
up some porn. Pay for your Mars bar. Pick up some porn. The classic way.
That's as recent as like 2019, and I'm like,
amazing.
Who the fuck sells porn DVDs in 2019?
Connoisseur. I'm sure it was a great collection. But a bunch of people come running up into the TARDIS, or thinking it's a police box, because there was just a terrorist attack on their street. But the TARDIS disappears, and it disappears extremely fast because, as you said, they weren't allowed to do the disappearance of normal. And it leads to this random bystander falling on his ass, and then a close-up of him staring into the camera going, oops, as we then cut into the title. It was so jarring to me. I was like, what? Okay, this is a 60s thing.
Yeah, a lot of scenes in this story, there's only like two big ones, this one and the scene with Bernard Cribbins later on. It feels like it was it's a remnant from a previous draft where it was more comedic, because it feels more like a carry-on film where oopsie doopsies, I just fell over on my ass.
I fell on my bum.
Because it's like a first movie where Ian is trying to open the doors, but it's a thing where you have to sit on it and the doors open. So every time he stands up, the doors start closing again, and you spend like 2 minutes on that scene. It's a long scene. It feels like we were writing a draft that was more to that kind of tone. But then we got the note of kids really want to see a lot of murder, so let's make this darker. And this movie does get dark, so the two tones don't quite work because it just contrasts so much in this film.
Yeah, it is a strangely... there's a lot of things going on in this movie. There's a lot of things. But we get the intro credits, and they're a vibe. We get some fun 60s, like, jazzy music playing as some fun 60s font plays.
And we're watching
a nice swirling background.
We're watching a series of paints and oils going down a drain, which really look effective. It feels like it's more inspired by the TV show intro, the time vortex.
Yeah. It does feel more vortexy. It's very cool. And as much as I do like the music in this movie, it's the most out of place thing in the entire... It's the same in the last movie as well. Like, the intro music, like, nothing about it tells me it's a sci-fi. The music, it feels like, oh, this is like a jaunty adventure. But it's not a sci-fi.
It feels
like there's no synth music.
It certainly does feel like more of a 60s adventure type movie where, like, I guess Jason and the Argonauts would be a similar kind of film. It kind of feels like the kind of music you'd hear in those kind of movies, where it's just adventure, like Journey to the Center of the Earth, the 60s edition.
Never seen it. I've only seen the one with The Rock, and I saw the one with not The Rock, but
the first one was with Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser.
I only recently found out.
I saw the one.
I only recently found out they made a sequel to that movie, because the second one is only called Journey 2.
Yes.
But the first one was called Journey to the Center of the Earth, so I didn't realize it was connected until the other day when it was playing on Comedy Central, and I'm like, that kid looks familiar. Oh, he's from the first movie. This is a sequel. Okay, what the fuck?
Yeah. A hot take. Both of those movies are not good. They are bad movies.
The first movie was one of the first films I saw in 3D, like modern 3D, not the...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I remember 3D being okay, and then I got it on Blu-ray, and it actually came with a red and blue glasses, so you could...
Oh, incredible. That's awesome. That's awesome. I remember vividly the first movie I ever saw in 3D in cinemas was G-Force, the movie about guinea pigs that were super spies. I saw that in 3D. I was a little kid when it came out. I saw it in 3D, and I remember the 3D being absolutely garbage, except for one scene where a fly flew out of the screen into your, like, round your eyeball, came back in, went back in the screen, and that was the best 3D.
But ever. The first movie I saw in 3D wasn't Journey to the Center of the Earth. It was Fly Me to the Moon, which was a bunch of flies who land on the rocket ship of the very first moon landing, and we just follow these flies are somehow in the rocket. They'd probably be dead, to be honest. But
yeah, they would be dead immediately.
But like, I remember distinctively the movie opens up with like a jump scare of a fly flying towards the screen, which must have been very common, in 2008, where 3D is just being reintroduced. And my mum jumped off her seat. She got the jump scare.
Amazing. That's great. But back to Daleks Invasion Earth. We go into the TARDIS as Bernard Cribbins wakes up from passing out, and the doctor's like, "What year is it, do you think?" "Haha, you're wrong. It's 2150 AD, bitch. I've just kidnapped you and taken you into the future, and you're just gonna have to be okay with it. I don't understand why why Doctor Who did this.
Yeah.
Because he did not have to set the TARDIS controls to travel into the future the second that... Like, can he not stop the controls once they go? Surely he can, and surely if he can go forwards, he can go backwards. And so why doesn't he just drop Tom back off?
Yeah.
If he's like, oh, we accidentally set the controls and we've gone too far into the future, give me 2 seconds, I'll go back and we'll drop him off, and then we'll come right back here, and we will miss absolutely nothing because it's a time machine, and we can drop him off the second he came here, and we can arrive the second we left, and it will be like nothing happened. So Doctor Who takes him on this life-threatening adventure, simply because he's a dickhead.
I mean, to be fair, he just kind of wants to show off in this instance. He's like, yeah, I took you to the future by mistake, but look at it, I'm taking you to the future. Look at the 2150 AD. And if
I was running to catch criminals and I fell into a box that didn't make sense, and then the person I passed out, I wake up and that person goes, "I've taken you to the future, ha ha ha," I would have a panic attack because I would be like, "What is going on?" Like,
but I don't think Peter Cushing has any bad intentions. I think he wants to take him back as soon as possible, but possible.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't want to take him back.
But
he's
mainly because
he's gonna kill him. He's gonna kill him.
Mainly because access to the TARDIS is seemingly cut off because of what happens with Susan, which doesn't make any sense.
But that's because they leave. You just have like Bernard Cribbins is okay with traveling into the future. You just have to be okay with that, even though him falling into the TARDIS and then traveling into, like, it makes no sense. But,
yeah, and
it's fine. It's like a fun sudden like burst into the story.
What also doesn't work, it works in the moment where the 2 bookends are of Bernard Cribbins being a police officer doing his police officer duties, but the entire film, it's not relevant that he's a police officer. It doesn't fucking matter. He could have been here for any other reason. Like, he doesn't lead any situation as if he was a police officer or anything like that. So
it's a classic Yaz problem, isn't it? It's the Yaz issue.
Yeah, do you not remember that scene where Bernard Cribbins looks at his hand and sees, what would the Doctor do?
What would Doctor Who do? Yeah, not because this. But everybody steps out of the TARDIS and into the ruined landscape. And this shot here is where I was like, oh, damn, this set's really impressive because it looks exactly like it did on TV, where the TARDIS is in this like junk. But it looks better than it did on TV because it's in color.
And also the famous sign that says, "It is forbidden to dump bodies in the river," is replaced with sugar puffs. Buy your sugar puffs today.
Yeah. It's weird that the Daleks, like every other poster is ruined, but the Daleks are big fans of sugar puffs.
And you'll see sugar puffs adverts everywhere in this movie. It's wild.
Did you notice? Did you see the one where there's one in the opening before the credits?
Yeah.
There's like when it's the reveal of the TARDIS in the far background. There's a Sugar Puffs poster on the wall. They're everywhere. They are everywhere.
Yeah. So at some point, Quater Oaks changed their branding back to Sugar Puffs. I guess the tight laws on sugary cereals were laxed, and then they could call their brand Sugar Puffs again. Yeah. And then it was
somewhere between now and 2140 or 2150. Honey Monster is going to go back to being called Sugar Puffs, and everyone's going to fucking love it, and there's going to be a huge marketing campaign for it. Like, a huge marketing campaign.
I could just imagine them spending like billions on this marketing campaign, and then immediately the Daleks...
Just for Daleks to invade.
And we're like, oh shit, I guess we just wasted all our money.
No, we haven't, because we've made the most durable posters ever. But Susan's a complete moron, and she like messes around with some stones or something. She like pulls some rubble apart, which causes everything to collapse on top of the TARDIS, completely scuppering them apparently from ever getting back into the TARDIS right now.
Yeah.
Even though the TARDIS doors open inwards and you could duck underneath the bar, push open the door and get in. So I don't really see what the problem is. But
at least here, what she's doing is she's kind of walking along the bars as if she was a little kid who's walking along the walls. You know, when you're a kid and you just walk on the wall, you know, like a tiny little wall. That's what I used to do as a kid.
Yeah.
It feels more realistic to Susan in this movie compared to... I can't remember what she fucking does in the TV show, but she
probably just
boy,
yells
she
really
screams.
loudly.
Boy, she screams.
Yeah, she probably just goes ah, and it like causes like the sound waves to shake the stone so much that they all collapse. But something to note here is Susan does hurt her ankle. They will not talk about it until randomly later on in a few scenes. They'll be like, Susan's got a sore ankle. But they don't mention, like, Susan doesn't go, ow, my ankle, or anything like that. You just kind of have to accept that she's got a sore ankle.
Yeah, you'll
now.
see not Barbara trying to get like a... It's like a handkerchief she's got, and she's trying to wet it as a wet cloth, and obviously it's to help Susan's ankle, but you're not really sure why she's doing it in this moment because it's not really obvious that she's broken her or twisted her ankle.
We then Doctor Who and Tom Bernard Cribbins decide that they're going to leave Louise and Susan to just sit with the sore ankle, and they're going to go look for some people. And as they're on this little walk into this building next to them, there's actually a really funny exchange between the Doctor, or between Doctor Who. It's so hard to get this character's name because this is not the Doctor. With Tom, where Tom's like, how does this time machine even work? And he's like, well, time is the fourth dimension, space is the fifth dimension, and space knows no boundaries, and that's how it works. You understand? That should make it simple. And Bernard Cribbins is like, oh yeah, no, I understand that. That makes sense to me. Which is very funny. And a complete nonsense statement from Doctor Who, which is really good as well.
Yeah, and straight after this, there's a point where he's following the Doctor, but he kind of stops for like 2 seconds, and he kind of continues his path, and he's like, oh God, where are you, Doctor? Oh, you're right there. Like, he lost the Doctor when he lost Doctor Who when he's like 2 feet in front of him.
Yeah, he's not got any object permanence. So if he's not looking at something, it doesn't exist.
But yeah, it's just such a weird little line here. I don't know why it's here, because there's no reason that he would be confused about the Doctor's whereabouts, because there's only one way he could have gone.
Yeah, it's a strange one. But they go inside this building, which is inexplicably full of just cardboard boxes, behind which is a man in a gimp suit with a biker helmet on, which is the costume they've got for the Dalek drone dudes.
Yeah.
It's not a terrible looking costume. It's very cheap looking, though. It is a cheap looking costume.
It's a cheap looking costume, but on posters, boy, it looks menacing.
Oh, it looks great on posters, yeah.
But yeah, here...
when you completely redesign it and draw it, it looks great.
Here, it looks a bit kinky, especially later on, where they're all carrying whips.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's a gimp suit. Like... we then cut to Louise, everyone's favorite character, as she's immediately lost Susan. Her one job she was given, she immediately just walked away and was like... To wet her cloth or something, which would help a sprained ankle. Would that help a sprained ankle? A wet cloth?
I don't know.
I don't think that's going to do anything.
It's a classic logic of, let me get these frozen peas for your black eye or something.
Yeah. But I guess the idea, like the cold thing helps reduce swelling, but I don't know. Maybe. Is like a damp cloth gonna do the same job frozen? Like it's frozen, like it's the coldness that helps reduce the swelling, not like a damp.
I mean, imagine
like,
it is cold
lukewarm.
water,
but not freezing cold.
I mean, close enough to freezing. It's British weather, you know.
But anyway, she's lost Susan. She comes back over looking for Susan and immediately gets a man's hand wrapped around her face, and he's like, "Don't scream! Don't scream! If you scream, I'll kill you, okay?" He lets her go, and she doesn't scream. She's like, "Oh, how are you? Who are you? You seem very nice." And he's like,
"It's bizarre that you didn't hear the scuffle when the same man presumably took Susan away earlier when, she wasn't that far away from where Susan was, so she would have heard a scuffle at some point. Is she deaf?
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely is. Or she doesn't care about Susan, which I would guess is probably true.
Yeah.
But the guy's like, I kidnapped Susan, by the way. She's totally safe. She's with us, and she's really good. You're gonna have to come with us as well, and it'll be really good. It's for your benefit that you come with us. Do you want to come with us? That'd be cool. And Louise is like, yeah, I'll come with you. Okay, let's go. Woo. She doesn't care. They're like, this dude is immediately menacing and like grabs her by the face and tells her, don't scream. And she's like, oh, you're my new best friend. like
it's not even under the condition that don't scream because otherwise you'll be killed, shot on sight. It's just don't scream. He takes her away.
Yeah, which is it's like, what do you mean don't scream? Why not? It's strange. It is strange. We then get a really great scene with the Doctor Who and Tom as they take apart the helmet that the Dalek drone was wearing and the radio receiver on it, and they're like, wow, look at how advanced this is. It's a miniature antenna, and the thing is huge. It's like at least 5 inches off it. It's this huge chunky plastic and this really like rudimentary looking motherboard, and the Doctor Who's like, this is the most advanced tech I've ever seen in my life. Hilarious. I love 1960s tech, future tech. It's the best. Retrofuturism.
Yeah, retroism is amazing. I love it. It's such a vibe, and I love it when modern stuff choose to do that aesthetic.
Oh yeah. Modern retrofuturism is a top tier aesthetic. It's so good.
There's that Apple Plus TV show that's coming out soon called
Hello Tomorrow.
It's already out. I need to watch that. It's like the premise is it's like future technology in the 50s, and I'm like right in there. I'm not sure what the plot is, but 50s retro.
Yeah, just the art style. Just the art style alone. You're like, yeah, that's it.
Oh, and also The Incredibles, the Pixar movie. That's future retroism. I just love the vibe.
The Fallout game series.
I need to play
It's the whole idea is like tech stopped in like cultural tech and stuff. The vibe completely froze in the 60s, but
nice
people kept like living on, so it goes way into like the early I think it's like the 2100s or something, the nuclear bombs drop. So everything's got this weird retro futurism to it, but it's in the nuclear wasteland. It's fantastic. Fallout series is superb.
And also another one, the Jetsons. Like I was never a big fan of the cartoon, but the inventiveness in terms of like the designs were amazing. I loved that show.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's a vibe. It's a good vibe. But then the Doctor and Tom decide they're going to climb up some stairs, and Tom decides that he's going to open the door as violently as he possibly can. So violently, in fact, his entire body is going to go with this door as he goes flinging out of it. And there's no floor to the other side. It's complete rubble. Yeah. So he's like hanging out into the side. It's a fun stunt. It's a cool looking stunt. It's got like an edge of, this seems dangerous.
It fucking is dangerous. But Jackie Cooper, the stunt double, only had a tight strap around his wrist. There's no full body harness or anything. Just a strap around his wrist. He could have fucking fallen. It's incredible. And there's more horror stories about stunts gone wrong in this movie. So look forward to a lot of fun stories here.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But the Doctor gets him back in. They notice that Susan and Louise are not there, and so they need to go. They run back down to the TARDIS to see where they went, and that's where they see the flying saucer. And the flying saucer is a fantastic looking miniature. It's like this big yellow. Is it like it's like a? It's like a
kind of golden,
pale, like egg yellowish. Yeah. It's like a off shade of yellow. With these spinning tops on top of it. Which look really good. It's. I don't remember in Classic Who if we ever see any Dalek spaceships from the outside.
I think we do see the Dalek spaceship in Dalek's Invasion of Earth. The actual story, which were impressive on the show, but
I don't remember.
But here it's even more impressive. It's designed by George Provis. It's 3 feet in diameter. The design of a Slovene spaceship that crashes into Big Ben was actually inspired by this. So if you look back at...
I can see that, yeah.
And it actually flew over the stage at this point of the episode, at this point of the movie, and it is, you can see the wires, which I love. I'm glad this 4K restoration...
It's hilarious.
I am so glad the 4K restoration didn't erase the wires, because it's part of the movie magic where you can see how the magic was made, and I kind of love when you can see wires, especially in a lower film. I don't want the wires to be erased or anything. It looks amazing. And also the rotation of like the little windows is incredible.
Yeah, the actual model itself is a 10 out of 10 model. It's a superb model. Seeing the strings was hilarious. I loved it. I was like, this is great. This is so 60s, seeing the strings fly this little ship. It's hilarious. But yeah, it's a really, really good looking model. It's a really nice looking composite as well, with the wide shot of the ruined set and that flying across the sky. Yeah. Like it works very, very good.
The wide shots they get away with in this movie, because the studio is so big, is impressive, because obviously in the show they've only got like a third of the size of a stage. Like but it's impressive to see all the wide shots.
It is. It's one of the benefits of it being a movie as well, is you've got this bigger budget. You can do cooler shots. You can show things that the TV show can't manage to show. Yeah. You know, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's the whole appeal of these movies, to see the Daleks in color on the big screen. I don't know what aspect ratio this is, but it's super widescreen. It's not 19:6. It's super widescreen. And they make full use of every shot, basically.
Speaking of making use of shots, we then cut to Louise and Susan with a bunch of the like dudes that saved them. And the blocking here leaves a little bit to be desired, because we've got like everybody kind of standing together, which is great, but the dude holding Susan up is completely cast in shadow by Louise. Like if he took a step forward, you'd be able to see him, and it would probably be a little bit better looking anyway, because they're kind of just standing in a line, which is not great. But this is where we find out, or where the characters find out, that they need to find Doctor Who and Tom as well. And one of them's going to go back and save them, but he did see some Robo-Men, so they might be too late. Maybe they'll be dead. And we then cut to said Doctor Who and Tom as they're like, oh, I wonder where Susan and that went off to. And then Robo-Men appear, and as they've like got their back to them, and then this other dude appears and he's like, watch out! And then the Robo-Men shoot him, and then we see Doctor Who and Tom running away, but at no point do they ever turn around to see what the kerfuffle is about. They don't want to look at it. If they don't see it, it doesn't exist.
The dude that distracts with Robo-Man is of course David, who is a big part of the TV show where he goes off to marry Susan in the end. And that's obviously a storyline they couldn't really, not really do here. Like, could you imagine if they tried it?
It is the 60s. There was some sketchy movies made in the 60s.
But yeah, that's a big plot point of the TV show. So we had to really change the ending here. And the big ending of the TV show, just getting into it real quickly, is of course the big farewell. So this movie has to completely rewrite the ending to make it feel more satisfying, because they couldn't end on the big farewell at all. They could try, but
which
it'd
is
be
a
very
shame,
weird.
because it would be so weird, and it's a shame as well, because that farewell speech that Hartnell gives,
oh god,
one of the best speeches that he's ever given, one of the most iconic speeches in Doctor Who as well. It's so incredibly done.
One of the best speeches and performance speeches, even though I don't like why he's giving a speech.
Oh yeah, the reasoning behind it is complete nonsense, but the speech, the content is great. Like,
oh yeah, you had this one scene where I think they slap fish together, eat fish.
Yeah,
there's a scene with a fish.
You flirted lightly. Goodbye forever.
And there's a big Finish series called After the Daleks, where I think we find Susan after the events of the story and how she lives. So I imagine if he had, I wonder how they address it in like a modern context. It'd be interesting to go listen to that.
Yeah, I don't know if they would bother approaching it. They'd probably just be like, the doctor knew we were in love,
Yeah.
rather than the doctor's an ass.
Oh, what if Susan is in
although-
the 60th anniversary and they explore it?
I hope so. I hope that'd be cool. That'd be
You
cool.
fucking left me, grandfather. I didn't love David. We broke up 2 weeks later.
That'd be fun. I dig that.
You also fucking left me in a hellscape. Like, there's no society
Also-
left.
How would you, like, completely unrelated to the movie, but I like, it's just a thought. Susan can definitely regenerate, right?
I don't know.
She's a Time Lord. She's a Time Lord.
I don't know, because you have to complete the Time Lord Academy, and that's when you get your regeneration powers.
Do you? Do you? Because
in some forms of canon.
the doctor's daughter can regenerate.
True.
River Song can regenerate.
Yeah, I don't know how exactly it works. It's very strange. I don't know how it works.
I feel like I think she can regenerate, and I would not be against Susan coming back, like the original actor whose name I don't remember.
Caroline Ford.
Being like, doctor, you left me, you bastard, man. I can't believe, but you finally come back for me. That's great, as I'm here dying at the age of 1 million because I'm so goddamn old. And then she regenerates, and she turns into a different one, who then goes as a new companion to travel with the doctor. The doctor's got his granddaughter back. I think that would be a fun dynamic.
Well, in Big Finish canon, Susan has a son, and the son is played by Paul McGann's son. So I don't know if he can regenerate. I don't know how it works, but it's really interesting.
I know. They could explore it. They could explore it when they bring Susan back to be a full-time companion. That would be cool. I'd be okay with that. But the movie continues as Doctor Who and Tom tried to escape by running into the river. They've really got nowhere to go from these Robo-Men. But from the river, for some reason, emerges a Dalek. It's a really cool reveal. That makes no sense. Was this Dalek fishing? Like,
yeah,
in the lake.
Maybe there's a lot of people trying to escape by swimming to like different countries or whatever, where maybe the Daleks haven't completely invaded other countries. We don't know how the world looks in this universe, but maybe
why would they need to swim when they have a spaceship?
I mean, humans won't have. I mean, it's just to trap humans, I guess. So if they ever come into the waters, they can attack the humans.
Imagine being the Dalek that got stuck on river duty. Like we are conquering this planet. You get to kill as many humans as you like, except for you. You're going in the river, and you just sit there. You look at the fish.
Yeah, I do wonder why he's in there. That's my only explanation of maybe why.
Yeah. It's a cool reveal, though. It is a cool reveal.
And I think it's a cliffhanger to episode 1 or 2, which is a iconic cliffhanger when the Daleks finally appear in the story. And it's like, holy shit, this is a Dalek sequel. Oh my god, I loved them.
Yeah, it is very good. And the Doctor and that, they get arrested and escorted away as one of the rebel onlookers is like, darn, they got caught. The Dalek in the water is very funny because it almost gets washed away at some point. But it holds its own, and we get some shots of the Daleks like scanning the area and looking around, which I'm sure was very fun in the 60s, seeing the Daleks on the big screen again and seeing them in color and seeing them like around these urns and stuff. It would have been great. There's one Dalek that's trapped in a stairwell.
Yeah.
And if you look at it's like kind of looking left and right and up and down. It's like, fuck, I don't know where to go. Like,
yeah, and this just adds to the theory of, at this point, when you don't know Daleks can fly. Daleks? Can Daleks fly? Can Daleks fly now? They fly now.
They fly now. Yeah.
But yeah, also in in the Chase, which was the third Dalek story, you can see somehow Daleks got on the deck of a Mary Celeste. How did they get there? Obviously they fly. So
they fly now. They fly now.
Star Wars Episode 9, what a great movie. What a great way to end your franchise.
The first time stormtroopers or clone troopers or any trooper has ever flown. Ever.
God,
amazing.
Embarrassing.
So good.
Such an embarrassing movie. Christ.
Such a good time. The episode continues as we cut to goddamn, what's her name? Susan and the other lady that's not Barbara, but I'm pretty sure it is Barbara. Well, before we cut to them, really, we cut to the base and we follow the man on a wheelchair going throughout the base, and we see that they're like preparing all these different weapons and stuff, and then he meets into Susan and stuff like that. It goes on for a bit. It's a cool shot in that it's like showing you the readiness that the people have. You know, they are preparing arms, they're ready to fight, and it's really cool that we're following this one guy through it, and he's like taking us through everything. It lingers a bit for me. Pacing wise,
it feels like Gordon Fleming is just trying to show off here. It's a major improvement in his direction skill compared to the year before. Like, you've never seen a tracking shot in the previous Dalek movie like this. So I think this is just him trying to show off. It's a shame he never really did anything after this. Really, I don't think.
Film wise,
I don't
know his filmography. He directed like a dozen movies.
Yeah,
in the 60s.
Nothing major after this, though, which is a shame.
No. Yeah, but oh well, it's a shame. But he's a talented director. More so in this one than I think. You know, he gets the job done. I don't know if there's like, you know, with some directors, especially in this era, it's easy to like blend into a crowd, or it's easy to make yourself stand out by doing something different. You know, that's how you get the likes of like your Kubricks and your Hitchcocks and whatnot. But you know, Fleming, would I put him in that category? Maybe, probably, definitely not, but he's competent, he gets the job done, he gets the shot looking nice, and every now and then he does something, you know, cinematic looking.
Oh, yeah.
Which is
there's a really good,
surprisingly rare to find in 60s cinema.
Yeah, there's a really good one-shot tracking shot later on in the movie. We'll get to that, but yeah, he's certainly improved since the last time we spoke about him. As if he's still alive, you know.
Is he dead?
Yeah, he died in like 95, like 40 years ago.
Well, yeah. Well, 95 wasn't quite 40 years ago. Yeah,
it feels like
depending on when you're listening. Depending on when you're listening to this. But they're just chatting in the base, and the general gist that we're getting here is that the Daleks are going to kill everybody. People are kind of running out of hope, and there's differing interests in whether or not they should fight back or not. You know, we don't know if they're going to fight back, or if they're going to be able to save Doctor Who and oh god, what is Bernard Crippen's character's name? John?
Tom. It's Tom.
Tom, yeah, I knew it was like a plain, regular, boring name.
One thing I do like about this movie is I like how it's like the third act of a alien invasion movie, because you know the first act is usually everything's normal. Second act, oh no, the aliens are coming. Third act is, oh no, we have to fight the aliens now. Oh shit, we're in deep trouble. Yeah. This is the third act of an alien invasion movie. So the Doctor Who has entered the third act of an alien invasion movie, which is interesting for a story idea.
I think it's really fun. I think the issue is with it that they don't really know where to go after that, because like the middle chunk of this film is like you get your action set piece, then it's dumb comedy for a bit. And then like they beat the Daleks and then it's over. Yeah. Like, you know, the concept of joining an alien invasion right at the end to start your story is a really cool idea. And I feel like it could be explored in a more interesting way than what this film ends up doing, but what you gonna do? But there's also in this scene, as we're going through the base, one of the guys from the outside that saw the Doctor and that got captured, comes back to the base, and we see that the hidden base is behind like a wall that you have to press a button to get into, and then the wall like slides open and reveals the whole Who built that? Did they build it after the Daleks invaded?
Yeah,
did they build
probably
it before the
did it
Daleks
after.
invaded?
Probably after.
But how? How did they do it after? Who's got the technology for that? Daleks are bombing you. Like,
I mean,
there was something nefarious going on. What is this place that they're at? What even is this building? And you have to see the sign again. Whatever place they're in.
It's
this
like
warehouse.
it's like the train station. Well, the London.
Oh yeah,
the London subway, whatever you want to call it.
The underground.
The London Underground.
That's what it's called. Yeah.
Sound
yeah.
of the underground.
But yeah, basically everybody's losing hope with the humans, and they're trying to be like, should we fight back or shouldn't we fight back? We then cut off to a very nice wide shot. Establishing where Doctor Who and that are going up into the UFO as the UFOs come and landed on a bunch of these rubbled, blown up buildings. And it's a very nice matte painting of the ship, which is like superimposed into the shot on the set. It's some very nice blending of different environments going on in this shot. It's very good.
Oh, I fucking love a good matte painting. I wish I prefer it over CGI any day. Just, you can tell it's fake, but it's part of the movie magic, if you know what I mean. Like, you can just feel like you're part of the movie magic. You just point it, be like, hey, where's a matte painting? Rather than, oh, it's just CGI.
For me, it really depends on the vibe that you're trying to create in the movie. If it's like of its time, and like it's from the era appropriate, like a 60s film, and you're using a matte painting, yeah, cool, whatever. You didn't have any other items at your disposal. If you're making a modern film and you're using matte paintings, I'm gonna need this to be like a stylized, like sort of artistic choice.
Yeah, that's fair.
Otherwise you're going to completely take me out of the story that you're trying to tell or present this world. And it's like the issue that Idiocracy kind of falls into for me. Like that, there's matte paintings all over that movie. And some of them are really nice, but a lot of the matte paintings didn't blend super well with the CGI that they were doing at the same time. And so it makes for these really kind of gross looking environments at times. It's not aged greatly, that movie.
Idiocracy is a movie I haven't seen since we entered the world of Idiocracy. So it's been like a good
you've not
decade.
seen the movie. So you've not seen it. I watched it very recently, a few like last month or the month before that, again for like the third or fourth time. I think it's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's not as funny to me now, like as like a adult,
Yeah.
but as a teenager, best movie ever.
Oh god,
it was great.
Anything Mike Judge does as a teenager is like the perfect spot for it. It's like Beavis and Butthead, King of the Hill. He's a good funny man.
He is. We then see some people getting led up into the spaceship with Doctor Who and that, and a couple guys decide that they're going to try and make a break for it. Pun intended. As one of the men goes running away, he climbs up some rubble into a building, but he gets shot and he falls down onto some rocks beneath and then crawls forward and ends up getting completely executed by the Daleks. And you came in with the lovely tidbit of that man broke his leg when he fell into the rubble. So you get to watch a man break his leg.
So this man is Eddie Powell. He was the stunt coordinator for this movie as well. He was also a stunt double for Christopher Lee on Dracula. He was a xenomorph in Alien. He was in The Omen, and he was also in Jason and the Argonauts. So basically, the rubble was rigged to collapse when he tripped a wire, but it tripped too soon, and he was unable to position himself for a fall, and he landed on his foot instead of his back, and he twisted his ankle really badly. They tried to film a shot of him lying on the ground being exterminated by the Daleks, but he was sadly unable to keep still because he was just in so much pain. So they sent him to the hospital, and he came back on the same afternoon and shot the scene again with his leg in a cast. It's
Jesus
incredible.
Christ. Back before health and safety was a thing, that's crazy. Although the makes sure you get the shot. Like when he falls and you see him hurt his leg, he doesn't stay down, which is what he should do. He should honestly stay down and get help.
Yeah.
But this is not how. This is the '60s. This is movie making. Gotta the show must go on and all that. He gets up and you see him hop on like one leg, keeping his other leg on the ground so that he's in position for when the Daleks fire. I was like, kudos to that guy for making sure that the shot still worked. But goddamn, somebody should have stopped it.
We were just speaking about this movie earlier, but in The Birdcage, there's a scene where Robin Williams falls over and hurts himself really badly. But Robin Williams was a constant professional, so he just kind of made a joke and continued to stay in character, which is amazing. I love watching like movie magic like that. No, I don't love to see a guy twist his ankle like this. It's yikes.
It's like this is a great Lord of the Rings meme at the moment, but it's that scene in Lord of the Rings when Viggo Morgenstein, or however you pronounce his name, broke his toe kicking that orc helmet.
Oh God!
And they kept it in the film. He kicks an orc helmet and he goes ah, screaming in pain, and it's a real scream of pain because he broke his foot.
Oh God! There's another good one with the most recent, the Mission Impossible 6, where Tom Cruise breaks his ankle doing a big jump across 2 roofs. It's like the most simple stunt he's ever done.
And they showed it in the trailer. They were like, this is a selling point. Tom Cruise broke his ankle. Look at that.
It's like one of the only injuries he's done in that film series, which is incredible because he's stunting all over the place.
He did not pray hard enough to Xenu for the magic to not break his ankle.
Also during this scene, who the people who weren't professionals were Peter Cushing and Bernard Cribbins apparently. So Bob Jewell, who was born in Australia, was the main Dalek operator, and the director got furious with Bernard and Peter because they couldn't stop laughing whenever they heard an Australian Dalek on set. According to Cribbins, the director swore at him a few times for giggling.
Wow, I wouldn't even... it must have been more noticeable before, like, if you were next to the dude and hearing him do the Dalek voice. Because, like, if you asked me, like, where do these Daleks come from, I'd be like, what are you talking about? They're from Scarrow.
Yeah,
they sound like Daleks.
I mean, it was overdubbed with 2 men who would do the Dalek voices on the TV show at the time.
It's like a Darth Vader type deal where on set he was a Scottish man.
David Prowse is that the guy? There was a good documentary
testing my Star Wars
years ago.
Who was Darth Vader on set?
David Prowse. Yes,
correct.
He was like 6'6", huge bodybuilder.
Yeah, big guy. Yeah. And didn't he like not know he was getting overdubs as well?
Yeah, he didn't know.
But
he was like, okay, I'm being unmasked. Darth Vader is being unmasked in the final film. I'm going to be on set, am I? And when he got replaced with somebody else, he was so angry. I don't blame him for being upset about that.
Yeah, I get it. But back to the movie, everybody gets led inside the ship and cast off into cells. Doctor Who, Tom, not Bernard Cribbins, Tom. He's in character. And some other jabroni are led into a cell, and it gets locked behind them. But the Doctor Who is very quick at figuring out, oh, actually, this is just a magnetic seal. All we need is something that's not magnetic, and we can break the seal, and then we'll be good to go. Oh, you have a comb in your pocket, Tom. Excellent. Here we go, breaking the seal. Perfect. Doors open. He figures it out immediately, which I think is the point, because, it's like, look how smart Doctor Who is, except it's also the only time he does something smart.
Yeah.
He is useless in this movie.
To be fair, he's not in this movie at all, really.
No, he's not, yeah.
Which is a shame, because obviously Peter Cushing was very ill during the time, but I do like how the scene is shot. It's more because it's a very small room than an artistic choice, but I do like how you can feel how cramped the room is. Because they could have easily just tore down a 4th wall and just shot it like a stage play, but they move around in this small little room here.
Sorry, I have a kitten in my room. She was meowing for me.
Aw.
Yeah, they do move around in the small room. It is a small room. But they get out and they go immediately to run away, but a Dalek comes out from the corner. They turn to go the other way. Dalek comes out again. And there's a genuine joke in this that made me laugh, which is when goddamn Doctor Who goes, "Back inside?" Pointing towards the cell, which I was like, that's funny.
Yeah.
That is a funny haha joke. Well done. You did good. And the Daleks are like, haha, that was actually an intelligence test that you just passed. So we're going to go and turn you guys all into robots now because we want our robots to be intelligent, even though they're robots, which I don't know how that makes sense. Surely you just want them to be strong.
Yeah,
Like-
surely you'd want them to be dumb, because if they're dumb, they
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to break from conditioning that easily. You know what I mean?
You'd want like dumb meathead robots
Yeah.
that have got like lots of natural big muscle, so that you don't need like to use implant. You just need to stick in the brain control chip. Like I don't get it.
Yeah, but I do like the idea of, okay, every time we're going to get out of a trap, this could easily be another trap just waiting for them. The Daleks are always like 5 steps ahead of them, which is puts you on your toes a little bit here.
Yeah. It was a fun little twist on, oh, they escaped so quickly. I wonder what they're going to do next. To, oh, the Daleks actually wanted them to escape. I didn't see it that coming particularly.
Also,
but we then cut
also
back-
the idea of
Okay.
them being smart just because we're carrying a comb with them. What happens if somebody in the other room just thinks about it? But we didn't bring a comb
Yeah.
with them. We're not stupid for not carrying
Yeah.
a comb in an apocalypse.
Maybe the Daleks don't want intelligent people. They just want people that look after their hair. Make sure that they're constantly looking
Yeah,
good.
true.
Because they can't have any ugly robots. Like,
They don't want people who have helmet hair all the time. They want people who keep care
Exactly.
of their helmet hair.
keep it all nice and neat down. But we then cut off to the survivors, and they're listening to a Dalek radio broadcast that is like, you might as well give up because we're going to bomb you to death and you will die because we're the Daleks. We've already won. Just turn yourself in. You could live a fulfilling life with the Daleks. Otherwise, we're going to kill you, which is a rather sinister thing to send over the radio, but it's pretty effective, I think. We then, that continues as the guy in the wheelchair, I don't know if we said he was in a wheelchair, the guy that was walking through the base at the establishing shot a couple scenes ago, he's in a wheelchair, to show I assume it's to show kind of like the damage that the Daleks have done, like, they've damaged this guy's like body, like he's hurt himself, he's an experienced fighter, but he no longer has use of his legs, and he's loading up bombs into his bag, and he's like, we're just gonna kill them, let's just attack them, like, we'll just, even if we all die, it'll send a message that we're not gonna give up, like, let's do this thing. But he hasn't quite won everybody else over onto that plan just yet, until they discover that one of the dudes fits a robot helmet. It fits him perfectly, which sends him into a fit of laughter. He's like, the Daleks don't know what's coming for them. This is going to show them. This will be the best prank of all time.
It's a really awkward,
their
out of context scene for the movie.
There's a lot of really weird scenes in this movie. It's kind of what this movie's all about, is just a collection of strange scenes. But they start laughing as they're starting to formulate a plan now, as we cut back to the Dalek UFO, and they start, we see them turn some people into robots, and they're like, okay, cool, let's keep this train rolling, let's continue making some more robots. Why we only do 3 at a time? Why we only have 1 room for making robots on this huge ship? Why there's only 1 ship here when we've got so many people to process? Who knows? But we're going to take our time doing things, because if you want a job done right, you're going to take your time. And Daleks don't rush things. Like, they're famously extremely patient creatures that are really understanding and caring.
Yeah, this is an extremely slow moving scene. You kind of get the point where it's like,
Yes.
okay, I get it, please move on, it takes ages to get through.
It does. And what like when I was watching this scene as well, because this is where Doctor Who and Tom and that they get loaded in to the hairdressers to be turned into robots, and I was like, if this was the Doctor, we would be hearing some sort of protest. He would be trying to find a way out. He would be doing something. But Doctor Who is like, oh, I'm dead. This is it for me. I can't do anything right now. I'm gonna be turned into a robot. Like, he has no plan of escape. He has no way of getting out of here. He's not fighting back. The only reason he lives is because the other humans come to save the day.
Yeah,
like,
pure luck he lives.
Yeah.
And the whole hairdressers thing reminds me of that famous scene in The Web Planet. Like, the only scene I enjoy in that story was where one of the bug creatures pulled down like a hair dryer thing, and William Hartnell's like, "Oh, what is this, a hairdresser?" Which made me laugh out loud. That's like the best part about really bad story. 6 parts. 6 parts.
Horrendous.
Jesus.
Horrendous. It's horrendous.
Can't wait
It's
to
so
cover
bad.
that.
The show should have been cancelled. Should have been cancelled after that, honestly. Goddamn terrible. But then we cut to the humans filling out their plan, which starts to work out pretty well, and then immediately goes to crap because they're like walking up to the ship, and the Daleks like, what are you doing with this? And the guy pretending to be a robot is like, oh, these guys need to go in for like processing, and that Dalek doesn't question anything. It's like, okay, cool, go ahead. And then it comes up to another Dalek, and that Dalek's much better at its job, and it's like, where are you taking them? And he's like, oh, we're taking them to zone whatever. And the Dalek's like, what do you mean we're taking them to zone whatever? That makes no sense. We've only got processing going through these zones. So you're like, this doesn't add up. So the dude just grabs the Dalek and throws it. Because Daleks are not threatening creatures. This is the problem that the Daleks had in Hartnell's era of Doctor Who as well, is you can just kind of push them over and then they're done for. They're not heavy they're tanks, they're moving tanks, but they're really light. It's extremely light metal.
Not even in Justin William Hartnell's era. Remember that iconic scene of Peter Davison?
Oh god, yeah,
pushing a Dalek out the window, which is amazing to watch. But it's like, this is like the most intimidating threat to human existence, and you could just push him out the window.
It's the miracle. One of the greatest miracles New Who did is making Daleks threatening. They gave them like force fields and jetpacks, and you touch them, oh, I burnt my hand, ouch. And then they continuously went on to ruin the Daleks, but that's a different thing.
That's what you're speaking of Robert Shearman, who his wife was like, oh, you're writing for a Dalek story? That's ridiculous. The Daleks are like the most ridiculous creatures ever. And so Robert Shearman was like, okay, I'll sit you down and you can tell me every weakness the Daleks have, and I'll write the script so to address every weakness. They can't climb upstairs, I'll make them fly, which obviously was something they've done before in Remembrance of the Daleks, but just addressing every weakness the Daleks have. Here,
but it's like, the general knowledge of Daleks was, oh, you could just get some stairs, because they could, that was the general consensus around Daleks at the time. So he solved it. You could just shoot a Dalek. Oh, it's got a force field. Like, you could just push it over. If you touch it, you're gonna burn your hand. What's the stupid plunger for? Oh, it sucks your face into it or whatever. Don't worry about that. We only do that a couple times. Like,
they've only done they've only done about like twice, I think. Once in Dalek, and the other time in Doomsday, was it?
Yeah, Doomsday, when the scientist gets the thing on his head, like, ah!
which I wish we would do it more often, but the amount of times a Dalek could possibly do that is limited. How could a Dalek get that close to somebody? Why wouldn't the person just walk away?
Why wouldn't they just shoot the Dalek, or why wouldn't the Dalek just shoot them at that point? I do like how silly it is, and I think it's been a long enough gap between Doomsday and now that you could get away doing it one more time, because there's bound to be people like kids and stuff that have never seen the show before. They're like, what's that plunger on the Dalek for? And they're not going to go back to watch old episodes, or not immediately. So just answer that question. Just suck a dude up.
What are you talking about,
That's
Phil?
a sentence to be taken out of that's a sentence to be taken out of context. Like,
What are you talking about, Phil? Doomsday aired like 2 years ago. What do you mean?
yeah. Definitely was 2 years ago.
Definitely wasn't almost
like,
20 years.
Yeah, God. Yeah. The kids that were born that year definitely aren't close to being voting age.
Oh no.
Like
Christ.
But then we go into like a rather long action scene, and there's some fun stunts and stuff, but it's mainly people dancing with Daleks. Like, it's people grabbing hold of Daleks and spinning around in circles. There's one like red Dalek that people grab onto, and they spin around like 15 times with that Dalek, like they're doing the waltz or something.
Yeah.
It's
Ridiculous. And also whenever a robot man punches a human man, there's seems to be like the same sound effect of somebody going oof every time. Because you can hear him go oof. And it's incredibly stagey at times. There's a really great shot where one of the humans throws a knife at one of the Robomen. It lands in his stomach and he falls over, which I love that shot. And there's no the implication is that it lands in the belly. You don't actually see it hit the belly, which is why this movie has a PG rating. They're really good at cutting around things. This is almost very violent stuff for Doctor Who. This is pure violence, which I think is why the next scene is like a pure comedy scene.
Yeah, in case there was like some kids that were like scared in the cinema or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, the knife throwing scene in particular is like some really old school like home cinema type deals where you see the guy like pick up the knife, goes to throw it, and then when he makes his like throwing motion, you then cut to the dude who's already got the knife in him. Like, he threw it at like a supersonic speed, so it would just like teleported into his gut. It's some classic, like, you know, like you would do that when you're a kid making films and you don't know how to make something look like it's been thrown properly. But it's effective. It still does the job. Just add in a whoosh sound effect, like a whoosh.
And also a whip pan, a good whip pan.
Yeah, a nice whip can. Yeah.
And also, this is where
All the
we
techniques.
see, during this chaos, we see Louise go into a cupboard. That's basically all she does in this movie.
Yeah, but like it's impressive that you remembered her name was Louise, because not even Tom remembers her name. He's running around the ship going, "Where's the girl? Have you seen the girl? Maybe he's talking about Susan, because it feels really weird to be calling this grown woman a girl.
I mean, Susan's
like,
back at the base, but so
yeah. But still,
yeah. But the closet she's in has a load of Robo-Men helmets, which makes me wonder, where do they come from? Did the Daleks build one?
we see the dude, the jabroni that isn't Tom or Doctor Who. He gets stuck in the machine and he dies. He gets turned into a robot. He doesn't have the helmet on when he goes into the hairdressers. When he comes out of the hairdressers as a robot, he has the helmet and the glasses on. So I guess that like the suits must be in like a storage room, and then that storage room has like a vacuum tube, and then that vacuum tube sucks the helmet up.
Louise is
and
in
then
the storage room right now.
Travels through the vacuum tube, and then it gets put onto the person's head when they're in the hairdressing salon, and it gives them like a nice trim, make sure everything all fits, and then you take off the hairdressing thing, and you've got a brand new shiny helmet. You know.
But where do the Daleks actually get the costumes from? Did they just go to Next to buy all the kinky space helmets?
That's a question that you're not allowed to ask, actually.
And speaking of kinky biker men, they come up this. They later come up the ramp with whips.
They do. They're wearing black leather and come strapped up with whips, and it's a choice. It's definitely a choice. I guess they didn't want to give them guns.
Yeah,
I like to keep that PG rating. That would be my only guess.
Yeah, you don't. Do you see them use of whips? I don't think you do.
No, they get into like fisticuffs with the humans that rush them, and then it's like a bunch of like bad fake punching and going like ooh ah ooh ah. The choreography leaves a bit to be desired.
Yeah, but it is the 1960s. We did only have like 2 weeks to shoot this entire movie, probably like closer to like 2 months, but.
Then, the action scene continues as our humans are finally throwing the bombs they brought with them at the Daleks. This is it, their moment of victory. The assault has been a complete success, except these bombs don't do anything to the Daleks. And the Daleks just steamroll through it and start firing their lasers at everybody, which is... It leaves a bit of a logic gap for me. The Daleks are strong enough to withstand explosives being thrown at them, but if you grab a Dalek and push it over, it will spontaneously explode.
Oh, not even push it over. Like, you just push it towards your side of the room.
Roll it down some stairs. Roll it down a ramp. Yeah.
Like that red Dalek earlier. Like, it could have just rolled back into the room. We don't know what happened to the Dalek. Did it die? Or did it just come back?
Why did they bother taking bombs? Because you could just beat these Daleks up and you'll be okay.
Just get a tank and run them over.
No, they'll be safe. They'll survive against tanks. Because that's like a weaponry. They're strong against weaponry. You have to use your bare hands. And
but later on we use a car to run over a bunch of Daleks.
Yeah, but a car's not a tank. A car isn't technically a weapon.
It is when I use it.
But the Doctor and Tom manage to get away, and they run off into the night, scampering like little hooligans. Or it's not Tom, sorry, it's just the Doctor and some random dude run off into the night, and they drop down into the sewer as Tom is left on the ship. And he's kind of trapped. He got left behind in the scuttlebutt, I guess. In the chaos. He just never managed to get off the ship, which is kind of sucky of Doctor Who. He just was like, "Oh, I'm safe. Bye." Like, he didn't stop to try and make sure Tom was safe. He didn't make sure that his companion that he ripped out of time was okay. He was like, "No, I have to live right now." He's a douchebag.
Yeah, Doctor Who doesn't really have much agency in this movie. He's just sort of there for the purpose because, this movie is based on
He's not
a
even a
TV
hero.
show. He just kind of shows up
He's not
places.
even a hero.
I mean, towards the end, he does have a speech to divert the Daleks, to distract them, and he does do some heroic stuff. But this first half hour, he's just sort of there. He just doesn't really do anything. And also his niece is on board the ship now, which I'm not sure why they brought her along.
Yeah, that seems like a danger. Why would you bring the child to your battle?
Yeah, she is like 18, I suppose, but...
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, Louise, but why would you take... What was her plan in the battle? Because she wasn't fighting. She just ran into the cupboard. She wasn't fighting any Daleks and running away. She was just like, "Oh my god, there's chaos here. I better hide." It's like, why did you come?
I know. Like, all the men seem to know what they were doing. Like, just kill all the Daleks and we'll be out of here. But she's like, I guess she was there to try and find her grandfather. But anybody else could have easily done that. Just give a description of an old man with white hair, and you can easily find him.
And a mustache. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we move into a very silly scene.
Oh god.
As Tom is left on the ship, he manages to find a robot disguise and put it on. But and as he does that, a bunch of other robots come in, and they're all lined up. So, oh gosh, Tom's got to pretend to fit in and pretend to be a robot. And the entire time, we haven't actually talked about the music yet. During all this action scene and all this sci-fi, man versus machine action, there has just been some light jazz playing the whole time. It's some smooth funk jazz, and it's completely does not fit the tone of this movie at all. I really don't. I like the soundtrack. I think the music sounds nice. I don't like how the soundtrack is implemented in this film.
I quite like how it's used in the film. I agree. I can see why you think it doesn't connect, but I kind of dig it. even though it doesn't connect. I dig it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this
Yeah,
scene,
I like it. It's good music, but
this scene is basically the producers realizing we have a carry-on star here, so why not just write a scene that's basically like a carry-on movie. The famous Carry On series. Have you ever seen a Carry On?
I've not. I know about them, but I've never bothered to sit down and watch them. I feel like a lot of the jokes is very much era.
Yeah.
Like off its time jokes, and not so much something I would find really enjoyable to watch. So I've never dove into it.
I was in the hotel the other day, and Good Morning Britain was on, and they decided to play a clip from a Carry On movie, which I think might have been like the only 30-second clip they could actually show on daytime TV, because some of those movies have aged horribly. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Comedy's, a subjective thing, and it like encapsulates the attitude of an era, so it's not meant to last, really.
Yeah. But
yeah,
try telling ITV that, because they air the movies every bank holiday. It's non-stop.
Yeah, but the people that watch ITV are the people that were children when Carry On came out. Like they're the ones that are like, this is still funny and relevant. Ha ha ha.
Ha ha ha. Her knickers fell down.
Yeah. But it's just some like light slapstick of, everybody's in time except for Tom. Tom's out of time, and he's not a robot, but he's trying to pretend to be one.
That's a good point.
Oh wow, he's out of time. Yeah, he is out of time in two ways. He's out of time with the robots, and he's out of time literally. What a great purposeful joke that I made just now. I did. But yeah, I like the slapstick stuff continues on for quite some time, and we cut away from it a couple times, and we cut back to it. If it was just this one scene, I would have been okay with it.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it keeps going. I was like, okay, you really don't have any story to tell, do you?
When I saw this movie in the cinema last year, I expected more people to be laughing. I think this continued sequence only got like 1 or 2 laughs. So we mainly just sat there in silence waiting for it to end. Like, I dig it. I kind of dig it, because Bernard Cribbins is a very funny man, and it's slightly amusing. But it's just kind of comedy that doesn't really hold up to today's standards. It's just not that funny.
It's watching someone eat a plate of beans out of time from other people eating a plate of beans. That's not what really gets me giggling,
I'm 100% it's just Sugar Puffs.
Yeah, but like the colors are weird. Like Sugar Puffs just are like brownie.
Maybe that's the color it was in the 60s. We don't know.
just a bunch of artificial colors. It's just like they're like, let's put every chemical in this cereal. Like, I think they're probably pills.
Probably.
They're on like a pill, like if it's like a future diet, and they're like, yes, in the future everyone's going to be eating pills.
Yeah, it's probably like the food machine in the very first story. Remember in the TARDIS with food machine that's revisited.
Jesus. Yeah. There's a lot of ideas in Doctor Who, isn't there?
Yeah.
The movie then continues as we cut to Susan, and do you know the name of the guy that she's with?
You could look it up.
I'm not going to, though, so you're going to have to tell me.
I could look it up.
David, no, Smith,
definitely not David. Definitely not Susan.
No. Frederick.
Dortmund.
That's what I said. Dortmund. Said it the whole time. But we cut to the two of them as they're back at the base, and they're like, "God, did we get out? Is my grandfather okay? Is everybody okay? How did the mission go?" Wheelchair guy is here as well. And Dortmund, with his memorable name, tells everybody that the mission was a complete disaster, that the bombs didn't work on the Daleks and they couldn't kill them. He kind of misses the detail that you can just shove a Dalek, but everyone kind of forgets that that's a thing.
What I do like about this scene is it opens up in a wide shot, and you can just feel that, everyone's died and how isolated this underground base now is. It's a really great idea, just open up in a huge wide shot in the darkness. Yeah.
Susan asks if her granddad is okay, and the guy's like, "What? Yeah, he's fine. Whatever. I don't care about that." And they continue talking that they need to go. They have to get out of London. What they're going to do is they're going to get in a car. They're going to drive out to the nearby town. They'll hide out there. That'll be the safe place. And then they'll recoup and regather and figure out what it is that they want to be doing. We then cut to...
before that, Susan writes in on the door a message for her grandfather, and I've been watching too much Classic Who because I expected them to show every single letter written down.
They almost do, though. We get to see her write the word grand, and it takes about 30 seconds for her to write the word grand in giant letters across that board, which we don't need. We just need to see her put the chalk on the board at the most. You don't even really need to show her doing that. You've said she's going to write on the board, but as long as we know where the door is, so show her walk over to it, get the chalk, put it up, there you go, cut away. We don't need to see her go, or,
It reminds me of the first movie when we spend so long with her writing that letter for the files.
Yeah. Oh, God, it sucked. We then continue into some hilarious slapstick with Tom as all the robots get up to walk out. There's one robot in particular where I guess they must have left it because he's funny looking with his helmet like that, but his helmet is on squint, and it makes his entire head look like a weird frogman shape. And they must have thought it was hilarious because they just left it in and he's right at the front of the frame. It's so distracting.
It's possible they just didn't notice or didn't have enough time to fix it. Maybe it was broken, or maybe we don't have enough material. I don't know. There's multiple possibilities, and they do make fun of it on the commentary. Mark Gatiss, Robert Shearman, and somebody else.
Yeah, deservedly so. But they all, for whatever reason, Tom is asleep. He's been in this place for all of half an hour. But he's asleep, and he misses and he's out of step. But it doesn't really matter. He manages to sneak away anyway. And then Louise, the most memorable character of all time, she wakes up and she starts exploring around the ship. Being what's going on here?
Because she got knocked out by a blast on the other side of the door. She didn't get hit. She just got knocked out by a blast on the other side of the door, which is quite silly. But we watched Tegan get hit by a Dalek plunger.
I think getting she was right up against the door, and the explosion was right next to the door, and the door shook. That's got a level of plausibility to me, whereas getting hit with a plunger very lightly as a Dalek turns around, way less plausible.
But to be knocked out for 40 minutes, I'm gonna imagine we took for a power nap for half an hour. And also, they don't notice you in the first place, Tom, so he could have easily escaped at any point during their sleep.
They don't care. They don't care about him being there at all. They're he's sleeping on top of one of them. He's got, and it's not having a reaction to him. He's blending in for nobody but us, the audience.
Yeah, he could have just left. He just wasted so much time, so much precious time.
Yeah, but it's okay now because he's gonna attempt to murder Louise as he hides behind some cupboard or whatever to grab her by the face to be don't scream, which is the second time that's happened to Louise today, which is a weird theme. It's weird that's happened twice in this movie, is men sneaking up behind her, putting their hands around her face.
It's probably her most memorable trait.
Yeah, God. It's also strange that Tom even decided to do this. why wouldn't you just be like, oh, hey, it's me? Like, you know,
Yeah.
like, be like, shh, keep it down. Why do you need to sneak up and startle her?
I know.
Like, you're just being... like...
Yeah, we saw that recently with Caves of Androzani when Perry is asleep and the not robot man has to wake her up. He puts his hand around her mouth to stop her from screaming.
Yes.
It's a
yes,
very
he's
common
like, "Don't
theme
scream."
in Doctor Who for some reason.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Maybe it was just something in the 20th century, you know. But this scene continues into some more amazing comedy. As for whatever reason they turn on the food vending with
Yeah.
like conveyor belt, and like a bunch of plates start coming out, and then Tom's like, "Oh no, stop, you can't, you got to turn it off, oh my gosh," and he starts grabbing all the plates and like spilling the pills everywhere. But like I think he's like worried the plates are gonna make a racket or something,
Yeah,
but
I
they're
don't know.
paper plates.
Yeah.
They're like paper plates and paper cups. If anything, he's making more noise. But I
Tom-
think the real
yeah.
I think the real
I think the real reason is Tom is a huge fan of I Love Lucy, and he's just watched the iconic episode where Lucy works at the chocolate factory, and the
Right.
conveyor belt is moving along very slowly, and she's doing just fine with her job at that point. I mean, it keeps speeding up, and she can't get the chocolates in the box, so she starts throwing them on the roof, in her side of her hat, up her nose.
right.
Great
yeah.
episode, great skit.
Never seen it. Never seen it. But I think purposeful in this in the like the reason that it's in the script is to establish the vacuum bin.
Yeah.
Because they escape through it later on, but like ever the person that cares about recycling on a Dalek ship, Tom is like, oh, I have all these plates, better put them in the bin now. Can't just leave them on the floor. What if a Dalek slips on it? That would be a health and safety nightmare. So he goes over to the bin and it gets sucked out of his hands, which is a fun effect.
At this
actually,
point on the
getting
food,
sucked out.
yeah. At this point on the food, it's just jelly beans. But a
Yeah.
better way to convey this information to Tom is: do you remember like 10 minutes ago when he was copying every movement the Robomen had? What if after they ate the food, they all put the plates inside of the conveyor thing, inside of the trash chute? That's a better way
Yeah,
of doing it
yeah.
than just him stumbling
Yeah,
on,
that is
on the
that-
button.
But it's not as funny, is it? It's not as funny. But you could do that, and he's following along with the group because he's got like he doesn't really know what he's supposed to be doing, so he's just kind of in survival mode. And then Louise, who's hiding in the kitchen, she's like, "Oh my God, that's Tom." And then like that distracts Tom, and he steps away from the robots, and then they're together without him having to sneak up on her. She sneaks up on him this time, and it gives Tom more of a reason to still be hiding with the robots rather than just deciding I'm bored of doing this now.
Yeah. But
There we go.
it has to
we
be
fixed
really
a
funny.
scene from a movie like from 50 years ago. Sorted.
Almost 60, believe it or not.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. But then we, they cut to later on in the ship, and they're like hiding out, and there's a weird bit of blocking where Tom is like recapping what happened, and they're in like this weird corridor that kind of opens up into a larger room, but the blocking's strange that Tom comes first, and then Louise steps like in the narrow corridor, she steps over and in front of him to stand next to him, and then Tom walks over in front of her to go into the room. Like, that is some strange...
Yeah.
Why are you shimmying like that, blocking? Why didn't you just walk into the room? Why are you doing it like this? Like...
Before that, actually, we do have a scene where David, the future husband of Susan in this movie, of course, they still get married at the end. And Doctor Who are talking. I'm not sure what they're talking about because your eyes are kind of diverted to the massive... message to the Doctor in the background, and you're just waiting for him to turn around and notice it, and he doesn't notice it, which is one of the best jokes of the movie. It does feel like Doctor Who.
It is very funny that there's this huge writing on the wall that says grandfather, and the entire audience can see it, but our main character never sees it, and he actively is like, let's not go to the place that we know that the other characters are going to. They're going to go around that place because it would be horrible to go there. But I think where this scene fails for me is David's blocking makes it that he 100% can see that writing.
Yeah, because he's
Like,
obviously
you
looking
know-
at the Doctor, and behind the Doctor
Yeah.
is the sign, so he should see it.
Yeah, he should absolutely be able to see that writing and be able to tell him about it. A way that you could get around this is if you're like suddenly become Wes Anderson and shoot it really flat and almost 2D and have both characters facing us. Say
Yeah.
that they're like, you know, packing a bag or something. So they're both facing the table at the same way
Yeah.
and they're just talking about what they're going to do. And then framed between the two of them is the giant writing of grandfather, you know? Like, I think that would be even a funnier way of shooting it because it's so obvious and like, you can have them like turn their head so it
Yeah.
looks like they should be able to see it, but they don't. Whereas this just kind of feel like it's still funny, but it doesn't quite work for me. Like there's a better way to shoot this.
Yeah, I saw this last year in the cinema, and the joke does work. Everybody laughed, so we all had a good giggle at it.
Yeah. But did you laugh because it was funny, or did you laugh because you knew you were supposed to laugh? Because you could see that, oh, you're trying to do a joke.
I mean, I didn't laugh during the fucking Roboman sequence that went on for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, but that was compelling drama. That wasn't they weren't trying to be funny. But yeah, it's still a funny scene. It is a good scene. I would just shoot it slightly differently.
Yeah.
To be funnier for me, and only me. We then cut away to ITVX being really slow.
We also get a great shot where the Doctor and David come out of their hiding hole and they see the Dalek ship leave. Obviously, it's a Dalek ship with Tom and Louise on it. So again, Tom could have left like 20 minutes ago. He didn't need to sleep. He could have just left and went down at fire.
He could have. Yeah, he could have gone down the trash chute when the ship was parked and escaped when there's no Daleks around. I guess it's good that he didn't because then Louise isn't left on the ship by herself.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get some nice flyover shots with the ship as well. It's a fun effect with the model ship flying around. You know, even with the strings that we've already talked about. But I do like the miniature.
And I'm so glad they didn't cut out the wires. They didn't like try to make it look modernized. We just kept it as it was. You know, I'm very glad we decided not to do that.
It kind of reminds me, like, just the look and the way that the miniature's modeled makes me think of the Thunderbirds.
Yes.
Like it feels like like it would be a Thunderbird ship, you know.
Yeah.
But we cut into Susan and God, what was his name? It was like Tormund or something dumb like that. And Dormant.
Dortmund is the guy in the wheelchair.
Dortmund. Right. Who's the guy in the flat cap? Frederick. That guy's
Weiler.
Frederick. That's what I said, Weiler. We cut to them in a garage where there's like this little red van and they're gonna get out and Dortmund is like, you know, okay, you guys pack up the van, get ready, I'm gonna clear a path for you. Remember, this is the guy in the wheelchair as well, so this is kind of like his big heroic moment where he's like, you know, like, I don't need your assistance, I can do this myself. And he opens up all the doors and things like that, and he's wheeling himself around and he spots a Dalek and he's like, I'm gonna take this guy out. And he starts sneaking up behind this Dalek that hasn't noticed that he's getting snuck up on. And then Weiler is like, what's that guy up to? And he comes looking out and he sees that Dortmund's gonna attack this Dalek, and he just shouts at the top of his lungs, "Hey, don't do that! What are you doing? You're gonna get yourself killed!" Which causes the Dalek to turn around just as more Daleks come around the corner. He absolutely murdered, like, he is responsible for this guy's death. He was gonna get away with attacking that Dalek until that guy started shouting.
Yeah. I do remember this guy's death being more impactful and better done in the TV show. I don't remember exactly how it was done, but I feel like it was less stupid than this, honestly.
Yeah, it is a really stupid way for him to die. But he notices that he knows his bombs aren't going to work. And instead of throwing them at the Daleks, he throws them at the building, crushing them with the bricks, which is a clever way to kill the Daleks, because as we know, they can't be killed by weaponry. They can only be killed by non-weaponed things like arms and bricks and cars. If they think it's a weapon, they'll defend
Fucking
against
ridiculous.
it. But factual. This is the logic the movie is following. But the bricks end up falling on top of him as well, and he dies. But he makes sure to get one last cool spin on his wheelchair wheel before he dies. And then the car takes off as Daleks come flooding the streets, and it's a pretty fun little action sequence with the car driving in around the town. It smashes into a couple Daleks. There's a really great shot I liked, where it's a close-up of the windscreen when the windscreen's all cracked, and Wyler gets like a brick to smash a square through the windscreen so that he can see where he's going, and then you've got this great framing of the square windscreen and then the rectangle hole where his eyes are, and it's a really, really nice shot.
The actor Andrew Keir hurt his wrist doing that, which, again, health and safety standards in the 1960s and 70s are insane to think about, because we just recently covered Terror of the Autons, and the guy fucking goes backwards down a hill and he almost snaps his neck in that story.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's just people getting hurt.
And also,
it's just people getting hurt constantly.
Eddie Powell, the guy who broke his leg earlier, was the stunt double driving the car in this scene, but Roberta Tovey, the young child, didn't get a stunt double. She says they were traveling around 90 miles per hour, which I don't think they were moving that fast. And she was scared she would get thrown out the side of the car because she didn't even have a seatbelt. Eddie said it was a challenge to drive because the road was muddy and the car was sliding. Luckily, he managed to control it.
You see the car slide.
Yeah.
When they're driving through the woods, you see that car slide, and I was like, oh, Christ.
Fucking terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. She doesn't need to be in the shot of the car driving down. I don't know why you can't see through the windscreen. She has no reason to be in that car when it's driving down the road in those wide shots at all. But like, there's also when they're driving through the countryside, because they start getting chased by the Dalek spaceship, and so they start like driving around really fast, and they drive through like this little country bit, and there's like a bunch of chickens on the road, which really annoyed me, because if you're going to be using animals on set, you better goddamn look after them. They don't care about your film. But the car like they want a shot where the car drives like through the pile of chickens, and they all like run away quickly, but some of the chickens almost don't make it, and it is terrifying to watch. You see like 2 or 3 chickens get like clipped by this car. It's awful, absolutely awful. Don't like it. No, thank you.
Wild shot. It's very strange we just did that.
Yeah, just we're like, let's get a dozen chickens and just like nearly kill them. That'd be great. But they continue on until they can't go any further, and they get out the car and they start running, and they notice the UFO above. They duck down, and Wyler like covers over Susan to protect her from any oncoming attacks. But the spaceship just shoots the car and then turns and flies off. It's like, shot your car. Okay, that's good enough. Whatever, let's go.
The spaceship doesn't realize they left the car or stick around
even
to see
though they're
if
not
left
that far
car.
from it. Yeah,
you'd imagine that they have like heat signature as well. You'd realize, the heat signature isn't coming from the car anymore. It's coming from 2 people running away from the car. They don't even move that far away from the car. It's not like they're hidden by the trees. They just kind of.
It's not like the spaceship was that far away from the car. Like, they were above the car the whole time. They had a bird's eye view. They would have been able to watch them stop the car, get out the car, and run away from the car. Like,
but again, it is a pretty impressive stunt. I do like when things blow up in this movie. It's cool.
Yeah. But there's a great bit here where they get up and they're like, we're gonna have to walk to Watford now. You know, that's where they're going. They're like, we're gonna have to walk there. It's a good few miles, so we better get started. Do you think your grandfather is gonna meet us there? And Susan's like, well, if he saw our message, he'll definitely meet us in Watford. And then we cut to the doctor looking at his map, and he's like, okay, so we're gonna want to go around Watford because it's full of Daleks, so we're not going there, which is some great comedy. That's a really good joke.
Yeah,
really funny joke.
We cut to him with a pencil. It's a very close up.
Yeah.
And he's kind of going around the map with his pencil, and he just skips around Watford, which is
it's great. It's really funny. I don't know why he's still looking at the map. Because we see him with a red pencil, but the map has already been completely, like, the route is planned out with a red pencil already. He's just going over it again, even though he's already gone over it, presumably not in the far past, because he's only just come up with this plan.
This feels like it was last minute ADR, because we don't see we don't see Peter Cushing.
I would be
in the
amazed.
scene.
Yeah, I would be amazed if it was actually Peter Cushing holding that map.
Yeah.
That is like, you know, probably the director or whatever. Like, just give me the red gloves. I'll put the red gloves. Okay, get a close up. Right, there we go. Like,
yeah, because obviously they said it was apparently hard to do, and they did have to try and make sense of the story. So it does feel like, oh, we need a scene where the doctor is with his map, and he says he's not going to Watford. He's going around Watford because of the Daleks, and it does feel like a last minute addition to the movie. But it is a very funny joke.
It is very funny, and maybe it wasn't clear before where all the characters actually were in the world, because there is 3 different stories going on. We're following Tom and Louise in the ship. We're following Susan and Wiley as they go to Watford, and we're following the Doctor and David as they go around Watford and to Bedfordshire. You know, so that's a lot of characters and a lot of locations that we have to make sure everybody knows about at all times. So it would make a lot of sense if they were like, oh crap, like we need to actively explain what's going on right now. And they did it in a good way.
Yeah, and then David and the Doctor, or Doctor Who, do get attacked by Robomen. They get rid of the Robomen, and to end the scene, the Doctor just clears the map.
They get rid of the Robomen amazingly. Like the Robomen are like, hey, you guys, and then David like does a full on like tuck and roll with his gun, fires his gun as he's rolling, and hits one of the Robomen. Like, it's a full on trick shot. He does a full on. It's incredible. He is the best shot of all time. Like he is a gunslinger. Like
no such wonder Doctor Who leaves him with his child at the end of his movie. But then as the scene ends, the Doctor just wipes the mud off of the map and just says, as I was saying, about 3 miles to go.
Yeah, which I guess is kind of funny. To me, going back to the map felt like, okay, I feel like you're over-explaining it now. Like, we don't need to see the map again.
Oh, no, I just find it funny because the Doctor Who is just like, oh, that didn't really matter. It was like a little minor hiccup.
Yeah,
I don't care.
That killed some time, didn't it? There we go. Right. We then go into not Joe. Oh my God, we've been looking at too much Classic Who recently. We go to Tom and Louise as they're on the ship that's come down for it's now landed in like a field somewhere, and they're like, okay, let's escape through the bin. They escape down through the bin and drop out onto the field below.
Tom falls asleep again. Louise has to wake him up.
Maybe he's got what is it, narcolepsy, where you just like
Probably.
spontaneously fall asleep. Like maybe he's got that, you know.
But I mean,
he can't help himself. He's just like, ugh.
It was
He was working
nighttime.
he was
It
working the night
nighttime
shift.
when he's like he should be home by now, but he's on his cookie adventure and he's been running around everywhere. I don't blame him for falling asleep.
Yeah. And then, you know, they make their way into God, where did these guys land? They're at not Watford, but they're at the other place, aren't they? Where the mine is.
Sure.
Are they, or are they at Watford? Sure. I don't know where they are.
I think
honestly.
where everybody else is going. Right at the mine shaft. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. Which is a detail that I don't think we've actually really talked about, where this movie could really only be made in the 60s because like it's set at some point between now and 2150, we start reopening mines in the UK. Like, mines in the UK are as far as I don't know if we've got any open. Like, I think they're all closed.
Yeah, but in the next 125 years, maybe it'll open again. Maybe children will start working.
Mining is coming back. The classic meme is we took children out of the mines and they started playing Minecraft. They yearn for the mines. So
yeah, the miners yearn for the mines.
It would only make sense. Yeah, the children yearn. They yearn for the ore. So,
and also another 60s thing is the whole thing about magnets and the magnetism of the Earth. It does feel like
they love magnets. They do love magnets in this. Yeah.
If you ever read a Marvel comic strip by Marvel comic by Stan Lee, 9 out of 10 times the super villain wants something to do with magnets.
It's like that great Insane Clown Posse lyric, magnets, how do they work?
Stan Lee doesn't understand how the fuck magnets work. Sometimes they control people's minds for some reason.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. But when they're at this mining place, they get like confronted by a dude who's like, what are you guys doing here? You look all neat and tidy. Are you new here? Oh my god, you escaped off that ship, didn't you? Oh Christ, you're gonna die. Right, okay, follow my lead here, take some shovels. Like, he does these guys a solid.
Yeah.
Like, he straight up lies for them. He's protecting them until when a Robo-Man comes up, until Tom decides to kill the Robo-Man. Which the guy's got a really tragic line where he's like, why did you do that? The Daleks are gonna miss him. I was like, oh my god, there's gonna be a Dalek somewhere. Be like, where's my Robo-Man? Where did he just ran away? Where did he go?
Also, this Robo-Man has an incredibly tight helmet. Like, his head is too big for his helmet.
It does not fit him at all. Not even a little bit. But there's some nice blocking here. When the guy's like, okay, Tom and Tom Louise go hide in that shed, and we follow them around as they go like running, and they like dart left as a guy comes from the right, and then as they go right, a guy comes from the left, and they go in the shed just as a Dalek comes out from behind it. Like, it's some nice, like, oh, they're just getting away with this in the nick of time sort of deal. Like, it's very well done.
There is a point where the Dalek looks right into the window, but you can presume the window is dirty and the Dalek can't see.
Yeah, it's a shed. It's a shed. Yeah, it's a shed. It's shed windows are.
But he does look in there for like 3 seconds.
Yeah. But we then, as they're hiding in the shed, we cut off to Susan and Wiley walking through the woods. And Susan is like, haha, boo, as she's hiding behind a tree, which does not amuse Wiley very much. But, kudos to her for trying to lighten the mood and have some fun as they're walking. This guy's just a huge
I do like
downer.
that we get this little bit of like childish behavior from Susan, because the entire movie she's a smart little know-it-all. It makes sense that she would just be kind of bored of a situation. Walking through the forest isn't fun, so she wants to play around a little bit.
I've got it paused on a frame right now, and I haven't noticed until right this second how awful her hair is. Yeah, she has got a horrendous it's like a mushroom cap haircut in a ponytail. Like, it is not good. It is not a good haircut at all.
But it's the 60s. The 60s are so terrible for haircuts.
yeah it's not really a style you see coming back, is it? Like, 80s and 70s 80s hair is kind of like in style, but nobody ever wants to go back to the 60s. I wonder why. But they spot a little cabin across the river ahead of them, and they're like, oh my god, we could go there. We could get some food and rest up. Like, there's people there. Let's go talk to them. And they go up to them. There's these 2 women who point guns at them and are like, aha, we've got you. But Susan's like, oh, we're making our way to Bedfordshire? Yeah, we're making our way to Bedfordshire, which catches Wiley off. He's like, what do you mean? I thought we were going to this other place. And she's like, that place is full of Daleks. My grandfather would never go there. He would go around to see the mines because he's that curious, which I kind of liked, because it's like, oh yeah, no, Susan's smart. She knows her granddad. She knows how to handle, like, she's got this figured out more so than Wiley. Like, she's in charge of this situation. Also, it kind of feels like a cop-out to get our characters back together, but I think it works because it's justified within the characters'
I also
like,
like the
way the
detail
character is.
that the Doctor and Susan are so close together that they really know how the other one thinks. I do like that detail because
so close.
we're not in this movie. We don't share scenes a lot in this movie. They're like we only have like 2 minutes total screen time together. So it does help remind you that oh yeah, of course we love each other for grandfather and grandchild. It's a cute relationship.
Yeah. But they go in, and this is where you get the answer to your question of how they got all these Robot Man suits. These two women made all of them. They made all the suits for the entire army of Robot Men, just these two women, as they go on to explain that the Daleks want them basically to be tailors to create the suits. They're not interested in turning them into Robot Men because they're much more useful for making clothing for everybody. Which leads a lot of logic questions again, like why don't the Daleks just turn them into robots? Why don't and program them to make clothes? Why don't the Daleks have their own robots making clothes? They've got so many of them. Why is there only two women making clothes? Are they making clothes for everybody? Where do they get the materials to make these clothes? How did this entire setup even begin?
Yeah.
It's best not to think about any of these questions because the movie certainly didn't.
Yeah, you just kind of throw logic out of the window here. The older woman is played by... She was in the very first Doctor Who story. She was one of the cavemen. She was like the old mother in that story. So this is her coming back to Doctor Who, which is cool.
Yeah. Do you think she knew it was Doctor Who, like similar to the TV show, or do you think she was just like, it's another job?
I mean, she was in Doctor Who. It was like the biggest thing at the time. It was probably like the biggest thing on her resume.
Yeah, that's true. Doesn't mean she...
And it was only like 2 years ago, so...
People forget. People fall asleep. People forget. But they sit down. They sit down to have some soup and some bread before going off because Wiley's got a bad leg. I don't know how he hurt his leg. When did he hurt? It must have been in the fight, I assume, with the Daleks. Is when
I mean, his stunt double is the guy who broke his leg earlier, so...
But they sit down to have some soup as we cut off to Doctor Who and David as they're approaching the mines, and they're discussing like why are they here for these mines? What's in these mines? Maybe oil. And Doctor Who's like, but maybe if we were in Texas or the Middle East, they'd be here for oil. But no, I don't think they're here for oil. I think they're here for something else, something different. And we're gonna have to, the only way we're gonna find out is if we go in. And the guy's like, but how are we gonna go in? There's no weaknesses to the Daleks, even though they've killed many Daleks. We've seen Daleks get killed by cars, by buildings, by people pushing them over. The only thing they're not weak to is explosives. You know that they're resistant to explosives, but they seem to be pretty weak to everything else. Although I also do like the idea or the moment when the Doctor gets he says like, oh, everyone has a weakness, and then immediately gets a knife to his throat.
Yeah.
That's his weakness. His weakness is knives.
Yeah, he gets his knife to the throat from this. Did you catch his name?
No, guy with gun and trench coat. Frederick. This guy's Frederick.
Okay, Frederick.
Yeah,
is that right?
This guy is. Yeah, this guy is Frederick. That's who he is. He's Frederick.
I don't believe you.
That's
but
his
sure.
name.
But this guy is really good.
I'm saying his name's.
I do like the way this guy delivers his lines. It's really good.
Yeah, he's got like a weird, like smarmy sinisterness to him, where you're like, oh, are you trustworthy? You're really like, who are you working for? But like he manages to get the gun off David and holds him up at gunpoint, and he's like, what are you guys planning on doing? Oh, you want to go into the mine? That's weird. Most people are trying to get out of the mine. Ha ha ha. Well, if you want to get into the mine, you gotta grab that sack. Come with me. Let's figure out how exactly we're gonna do this. He's a mysterious stranger who perhaps can or cannot be trusted. He also tells them that they're gonna need to wait till nighttime. They can't just go in the daytime because that would be absolutely idiotic. Everyone's in the mines, which is some good logic.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that super genius Doctor Who didn't figure that one out. Also, where are they? They're in like this weird stone dome. And
yeah, I don't know.
it's a cool thing. I don't know where this is. I don't know what that is, but it's cool. Like it looks straight out of the medieval times. The movie continues as it suddenly becomes nighttime, the spookiest of times. And we go to see Wiley and Susan in the house. Susan is fast asleep, and Wiley is like tossing and turning in bed. He can't really sleep. As he hears one of the women come back into the house carrying bags of food, and they start chattering amongst themselves like, "Ha! I told you they'd give us more food if you just asked them. Ha ha ha! We've done it. We're so conniving." Which causes Wiley to be like, fuck. As he gets up and he creeps over to Susan's bed and really creepily puts his hand over her mouth for the third time in this movie. This is happening. A man putting their hand over the. Like, what is with this weird trend of men putting their hands over the mouth of the women and girls in this movie? It is kind of gross. I don't understand.
Because of course the big stereotype is women are always going to be screaming.
Girl will scream.
So
They'll be screaming. Yeah, can't have them. Stop your hysterics. Don't be so hysterical. Jesus Christ.
If this was a TV show, we'd be able to hear Susan scream like 50 times by now. So
well, that's not true. We'd be deaf. We wouldn't be able to hear anything.
You can't hear her scream in space.
Yeah, I know. As Susan screams, the only one you can hear in space, actually.
I do like how this scene is introduced because they slowly move the camera back to reveal what Wiley, or whatever his name is, Wiley, is tossing and turning.
Wyler.
Yeah,
Wiley Coyote. Yeah.
He's tossing and turning, so you get a good reveal of him. Yeah, of course he's going to be able to hear this, and the reveal of the Dalek is really well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, although it makes me like think like, what was that Dalek gonna do? Was it like before that curtain opens? Was he just gonna have to wait there for them to come out? Like,
maybe he was trying to figure out how to knock on like the window. How can I knock without any hands?
I don't have any hands. Where's my human? He's gone missing. But that's they go to sneak out because Wiley's got a bad feeling, but as he opens up the door or curtain or whatever it is, there's a Dalek standing there, and they get taken away, and the two women justify their horrendous betrayal to each other, where they're like, well, they said they wanted to go to the mines anyway, so we're just taking them to the mines. That's it. Ha ha ha.
The daughter is kind of laughing about it, while the mother is like, oh god, I can't believe we had to do this again. That's the way I read it. Like, she's kind of upset that she has to resort to this every single time, whereas the daughter is like, oh, I'm kind of getting used to this. We got food. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Tom hides out in the shed as there's some spotlights going around, and it's very much you were saying that this story was inspired by the likes of like World War II, and you can very much see the like internment camp vibes with the giant spotlight going around scanning left and right as Bernard Cribbins is hiding in the shed, peeking out. But he settles down for the night as we then cut to the morning with man in trench coat cooking some beans for Doctor Who and David.
Yeah,
except he's not cooking beans for Doctor Who and David. He's cooking beans for the ground.
Yeah, a lovely beans, of course, is a lovely wee snack, especially on toast.
You say it's a snack. I say you're monster, a horrific monster.
And of course, Beans is a kind of almost a recurring joke on this podcast. The first time we spoke about Beans was in the Sarah Jane Adventures pilot, where Maria's dad is cooking some beans on toast because it's a wee snack for his child, and that's where our little thing came from.
Yeah, but it's not a snack.
Of course, in the K9 Australian TV series, there's an episode where K9 is lying in a bin, and he sees some beans, and
he does. I forgot about that. Holy crap,
he does a wee fart.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh my god, I forgot entirely about that scene. Jesus Christ. Oh, what a show that was. But
we should do more episodes.
This dude in the this dude in the trench coat is cooking beans. And he went through the trouble of setting up a fire, lighting a fire, using a tin of perfectly fine beans and cooking them, just so that when Doctor Who and David wake up and they ask for the food, he can go lol no and kick it over. What was the point?
just to torment,
just to be a dick. Like,
yeah, just to be a
douchebag. Like, yeah.
But yeah, you can imagine that beans are like scarce delicacy in these times.
Yeah,
and he's just like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I just want to fuck around with you. I'm gonna troll you, which is a dick move. You can tell he's a villain.
It is. Yeah. But he leads them into the shed, where of course Tom and that are hiding out because the Daleks are really bad at guarding this base, and anybody can walk in and out and go into this shed that is apparently super secure and secret. But yeah, it's strange that they can just walk in with no problem at all. You know, it is a setup, like the guy is working with the Daleks, so maybe they're just letting this happen. But to what extent are they letting this happen? Because it's really only the Doctor that they end up arresting. Everybody else gets to go away and do their plan. Like, how much do the Daleks actually know is going on?
Yeah, they let these characters sit around in this shed for like half an hour to formulate an entire plan to conquer to thwart their invasion. You know, like they just don't want to interrupt their plan.
Yeah, it'd be really rude. But you know, this is of course finally our characters are getting back together and meeting after doing absolutely nothing for most of the movie, which is very nice to see. You know, it's a nice little family reunion as they start to formulate a plan. Mm-hmm. We then cut away to...
We're back on a Dalek ship, and we begin to track a black Dalek, then tracks a red Dalek. I mean, the black Dalek comes back on screen. I think it's a really good tracking shot just to show off how huge the set is. It's a very shaky shot, but I think it's highly ambitious compared to, compared to the shots in the first movie. This is really ambitious work for Gordon Fleming.
Yeah, and it's cool as well, you know, they try their best to frame the Daleks through the circles in the steel beams as well, so you can get like a fun like square circle like framing device going on. And it works most of the time. It's very cool. It's very nice, and it must have been a nightmare to try and work, especially, you know, like it is shaky, but cameras back then were so heavy.
Yeah, oh god.
Like, I can't imagine how stressful that must have been.
And again, you can't really shoot it on a dolly either, because this thing is going up 2 levels.
Yeah, this is handheld. You know, there's camera per camera
insane
guy holding that thing. Like, but we follow them, and the Daleks are like, we're gonna do some stuff. As we cut back to the plan, and I want to talk about this plan because this plan makes no sense. So, the Daleks' plan is to use the old mine shaft. Mm-hmm. They've dug a new one that goes straight down. They've dug, and the way that they've been digging is with people's bare hands. They've not been digging with machinery, remember, because Tom has a line later on where he's like, why didn't they use machines to dig? I don't get it. Why did they bother making all of these people dig? So they've been digging with humans, you know, to dig this mine that goes straight down to the core of the planet, where they're going to like turn it into a flying spaceship by getting rid of the magnetic poles. But the Doctor's plan is to divert one of the mine shafts so that the bomb goes the wrong way and instead makes the magnetic pole suck all the Daleks in. It makes no sense. But so they have mined through the crust of the Earth, which is the bit that we all live on, right? Mm-hmm. The bit that's super. It's the thinnest bit of the Earth, but it's super deep. We've never got through the mantle. The mantle is so deep, like it's so like ridiculously deep. But it's the thinnest part of the Earth. Then after that, you get to the mantle, right? It goes crust, mantle. Yeah. You get to the mantle. You know what you're dealing with? Lava. You've just got lava everywhere. Hot lava. But that's okay. You know, it's also the biggest bit. It's just it's so much lava. I mean, you manage to get through that. Then you get to the outer core, and do you know what the outer core is made of? You're right, more lava. There's even more lava just everywhere, just loads of it. And then after that, you finally get to the inner core. It is so immensely deep. Nobody has ever managed it before. Yet the Daleks managed it with just a handful of people in a town digging straight down. It makes no sense. It's the most ridiculous plan.
Yeah, this is something that Terry Nation gets criticized a lot for. His science doesn't make any fucking sense, you know? Again, I don't know what it is about the 60s and not understanding how magnetic poles work or how the center of the Earth works. It's very bizarre. It's very bizarre that it keeps happening whenever you visit 60s media. I don't know what it is.
What I think is so strange about it as well is like you're writing a science fiction show.
Yeah.
Like there needs to be like the science you're presenting is not science, it is fiction.
Yeah.
But it's not like, why not like call up a buddy that works at the Met Office in the BBC, you know, a person that has a degree in geography and be like, hey, could I dig to the core of the Earth? And he would be like, what? What did you ask me? Like, and you know, work with them, have advisors to be like, is this feasible? How would I rework this to make it seem semi-feasible? It doesn't need to be realistic, but it needs to sound like it would be something that's possible, you know? Unless you're like, I could believe it if you were saying the Daleks used a big laser beam to dig down to the core, you know, they use their future technology, but it's the fact that they specifically say, why did they get humans to do this?
Yeah.
But
yeah, again, the idea of the Daleks going to the center of the Earth to try and pull the planet like it's some sort of spaceship is revisited in Journey's End and
yes,
what's the other episode called? The Stolen Earth, which does get referenced to by the 10th Doctor, which again is really strange that the 10th Doctor remembers he went through these events. It's like
it happened off screen. This is a a movie in the Doctor Who universe detailing these weird events that happened in the future.
The events of the TV story. But yeah,
right, yeah.
He just remembers a poorly written scientific element to the story. And he doesn't question it. He doesn't act like it doesn't make any sense. He just acts like, oh yeah, that made perfect sense. I mean, of course, the Daleks could do that. It's really weird.
I guess it makes sense with Dalek science. Maybe they have an understanding of the universe that we just can't quite grasp. But yeah, it is very strange. I'm about to watch that 2-parter very soon, actually.
And of course, the big link
that's roughly where I am.
The big link between this movie and that episode is Bernard Cribbins, who is probably the MVP of this movie. He doesn't get a lot to do, but whenever he's on screen, he can't help but feel happy. He is just really fun in this movie.
I just like him because he's Bernard Cribbins. Really, that's what he's got going for him. You know, it's like I don't mind whenever Doctor Who is on screen because I really like Peter Cushing.
Yeah. Because
I'm like, that's Grand Moff Tarkin. That's weird. Like the whole time.
Yeah. You know, when you're watching this movie, it doesn't feel like it's really him. If that makes sense. It feels like it's a different person. It doesn't feel like he's Peter Cushing. It's really weird.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like he doesn't even really look like Peter Cushing. It's crazy.
How old was Peter Cushing in this movie?
I'm going to guess 50s. Because he's not that old. Because he's like, it's the 70s he does Star Wars. And then he's starting to look old.
He was born in 1913. So he's about 52
Christ, when did this movie come
ish? 53?
Yeah.
So he's about the same age as Hartnell was when he started Doctor Who.
He looks a lot better than Hartnell did, but that's not hard, really.
He's the same age as David Tennant is now.
Christ, yeah, that's crazy. David Tennant's a good-looking dude. He's aged well. He has aged well. Or he's got a lot of hair dye. But anyway, the film continues as we go into the mines, the deep spooky mines, with everybody except Doctor Who, mainly following Tom and some other jabroni. And this is, I find this mine stuff here relatively boring to watch because it is just people kind of walking around mine shafts in silence while music plays. But there is a certain point where
I do want to bring up that before this, Doctor Who is like, okay, David, go off and find a good hiding spot for Louise to hide, and she's absent for the rest of the movie.
She does not. She does absolutely nothing until the rest of the movie, until they're back in the TARDIS.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like she can throw a few stones at like a Dalek or something. Just keep throwing bombs at them.
Nope, she's just got to go away now. Bye-bye. You've said your 5 lines of dialogue?
Oh, God. Like, name one line of dialogue she has.
I know a lot of people told her not to scream.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gross. But what I do like about this mineshaft stuff is, as boring as it is to watch, when they do get towards the, center shaft, the lighting suddenly becomes really cool, and they've actually got different colored lights going in, and it's flashing kind of slow strobing lights, and it builds a really cool atmosphere to it. And it's because it's old school Technicolor film, there's a certain vibe to the way that things were colored back then, when you've got a gel light on it, where I'm like, oh, this looks kind of funky. I like this. This is like a retro vibe going on. It's really cool. And they see another dude in the shaft that they're like, hey, you're our buddy Jeffrey. Come help us out. Because they see his full face, but then he pulls down his helmet and he reveals that he's a robot, and they have a wee scuffle, which leads to a lot of questions about how, it's a cool shot, the close up of his face, and then the reveal,
cool
fade out, and then the reveal. It's a really cool shot, but they went for cool shot over logic. Because it leads so many questions to how the robots actually work, why they need the helmets on, especially because a lot of the helmets don't even fit the goddamn robots. What's the point of the machine? But they were like, it doesn't matter, it's a cool shot.
And also,
which I kind of respect.
If they can remove their helmet, why not convert one of the rebel army people?
Take the helmet off and then infiltrate.
Yeah. It's a simple idea. You could get loads of people that way. Take them to another place, and Daleks will invade, and everyone will be converted now. But no, it doesn't make any sense. But again, it is a cool shot. It's a really cool reveal. And apart from that, it's just a really weird. It's a question. It's a big question. So they can be controlled without the helmet. So then, what does the helmet do? I guess it just shields their head. But Bernard Cribbins was able to hit one on the back of the neck earlier. So I guess it does nothing. The goggles do nothing.
Yeah, they're just there because they look so damn snazzy. The
Daleks are just really kinky.
Yeah. We then during this scuffle, a couple the dude that isn't Tom, and that robot guy, they fall down the shaft, and Tom hangs on for dear life, and we then abruptly cut to the shed. There's sometimes the transitions in this film have been really good, and sometimes it's just the music stops and it's a hard cut, which I think I understand why it's happening, because, we've been saying they had a hard time in the editing process for this movie, trying to cut it together. And so maybe they were just there's no easy way to, this movie is all over the place. There's no coherent way we can really transition to these two scenes other than just doing a hard cut. We just have to deal with this.
Yeah.
Which also, we were talking.
Yeah, sorry.
We were.
Yeah. you can speak.
we were praising the director of this, but on the other hand, if he made this movie so incomprehensible that they had to try and save it in the edit, and even then they kind of were oh Christ, was that good direction? Maybe there were extenuating circumstances, famously Star Wars was saved in the edit, but is this comparable to Star Wars? I don't really know. I don't think it is.
No. Yeah, it's hard to say. Maybe he didn't just shoot enough coverage. Maybe maybe it's more of his script, cutting back and forth between several sets of characters and different scenarios. And I don't know who to blame. Who to blame for this? Really, it's a tricky one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tricky one because he does show he's really good at directing here. It's just the transition again. The transitions feel like you're sitting on a TV remote and you suddenly change the channel.
Yeah,
it's jarring as hell.
It is. The editing's strange, but this is where Doctor Who is with Trenchcoat Man, and Trenchcoat Man's like, I've betrayed you, by the way, and Doctor Who's like, oh yeah, no, I know, I was expecting you to betray me. I've thought this through. And he gets like escorted away by like a group of Daleks. And what I really like is like all the Daleks like surround the shed, and it's a really kind of intimidating shot where you've got like 6 or 7 Daleks. Around this shed, at all aiming at this dude in the trench coat, and it takes the dude in the trench coat a second before he's like, crap.
Yeah,
I was working. The Daleks don't need me anymore. Like,
it is such a good scene, and people started clapping when we were at the cinema. Well, when I was at the cinema watching this, like it's such a fun scene because you can the villain for this piece of a movie gets his comeuppance. You know, he is in deep shit right here. It's such a great moment of him realizing, oh shit, you have no further use for me.
Yeah, and then he goes to hide in the shed, but all the Daleks shoot the shed and it explodes in a gigantic explosion. Like it is a big one. That's a big bang, that one.
And you know, this is just the next 15 minutes of the movie, just explosions after explosions, which I really dig.
It really is just, it is a lot of bang, 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 kerblam. As we were cutting to like
episode.
Kerblam's all right. As we're cutting to Tom like climbing through the mine shafts trying to hide from the Daleks, and then the Daleks. This bit's so dumb. Where, you know, they're setting the timer for the bomb. I don't know if they've set the timer yet, but you know, the Doctor's with everybody and he's like, don't worry, I'm gonna solve it, and he ends up getting separated and taken towards the Daleks, and they start chatting, and I don't understand anything that really goes on in this last action scene. Because like the timer's on, and it's like they set like, it looks like 60 seconds, but we worked out that it's technically 43 within the logic of the own movie, but in real life it's much more closer to about 2 minutes. And the Doctor is like, when he's talking to them, he's like, oh, I know that the plan for you is that the magnets are gonna, like, you're worried about the magnets, the magnetic pull of the Earth, like it's gonna really mess you up, but I can help you with that. I can solve that problem. I'm really smart. And the Daleks believe him. They're like, oh, how are you gonna help us with that? And he goes, easy, look over there. And then he quickly runs over to the microphone and goes, everybody, all the robots, kill the Daleks, and no takebacks. The Daleks can't stop me saying this, haha. And then it causes chaos and haywire as all the robots start killing the Daleks, and it's the dumbest thing.
Oh, God, yeah.
I think that is the possible solution. He literally just went, look, an alien, and then ran behind them, like.
And the Doctor gives this message for like a good 20 seconds, I want to say, and the Daleks just stop there.
Yeah.
And they let him give out the entire message without any kind of blowback. They just don't want to interrupt him, I guess.
It's so dumb.
And then obviously before
It's so
that, he
dumb.
does see Bernard Cribbins down the shaft. So that's why he's doing this. And obviously all the Robomen are like right next to the Doctor as well, so none of them stop the Doctor from giving the order. It's really strange.
You know, right. I've just a way better way that you could have done this is the Doctor's like, oh, I could help you out with this. Like, I can come up with a solution to this. And the Daleks are like, oh, really? What's that? Then have the Doctor start bullshitting. He just starts talking about magnets and science, and, you know, you put in some science jargon, mumbo jumbo. But as he's talking, he's slowly walking over to the controls. You know, he's being smart, and he's distracting the Daleks with what he's saying, the science that he knows, and they're not paying attention to him actually moving. And then he can get over to the controls, and he can quickly say his thing, or somebody can make a bang that distracts all the Daleks, then he can set all of them free or something, or have like a big button that's like robot control button, and then he can smash that button, because him having to give voice commands to the robots to make them break free makes zero sense as well. Why are they programmed to listen to human voices and not Dalek voices?
Terry Nation revisits this little moment here in Genesis of the Daleks, where Tom Baker it threatens to turn off Davros's life support, and Tom Baker starts to give the orders to the Daleks to, I think it was to exterminate, or stop, or to kill themselves, or something like that. And then Davros's right-hand man comes and stops them, and then Davros is like, don't listen to that order, listen to me, remain where you are, and all that. That was a lot better way of doing that. But here the Daleks just stop still and let the Doctor give the orders. They don't try to shoot him or anything. The Robomen don't stop him. It's just really bizarre.
It is bizarre, and it is bad, and it is dumb. And it leads to some fun action, though, as we're looking at mainly just Daleks getting absolutely ripped apart and destroyed, as some of the Daleks are starting to shoot other people, and it's pandemonium as everything's happening, and the counter goes down, the bomb drops down into the thing, but like it drops halfway through the timer because it was set so that the timer would count the precise... I don't understand why you would just drop
I
it
want
down.
to talk about the timer here. The timer doesn't operate in terms of like the movie.
No.
It doesn't work well because every time we cut to the timer, it's like it stops at like maybe 40 rels, and then we cut to another scene going on for like 20 seconds, and then we cut back to a timer. It's still at 40 rels, so we didn't advance the time of a timer. But
No.
I prefer this timer over the Dalek in the first movie, counting
10,
down in the background.
9, 8, 7.
And you know,
I
watched the movie last year, when I watched the movie last year, the Dalek counting down in the background got a massive laugh.
Yeah, because it's funny and it's entertaining, but at least the Dalek counting down is consistent with the continuity.
Yeah.
This isn't consistent with the this goes to like 10 seconds, comes back, like we go away for like a solid 5 seconds, come back and it's at 11 seconds. Then then the bomb explodes when it's at 25, like at like 40 seconds. Like it's not even like the timer's not gone completely off. They just didn't shoot the timer going all the way round. They just didn't have that shot. And it's just on a random number and then it explodes. Like the timer is completely inconsistent with the actions of the bomb and the actions of everybody around it. It feels like a last minute cut in, like, oh quick, just shoot this clock. We'll just stick it in somewhere. And they didn't get enough of it. Like
Terry Nation loves doing countdowns to end a story. And these countdowns never make any fucking goddamn sense. But I kind of don't care. I don't care at the same time because I love watching these special effects of all the Daleks exploding.
Yeah, I like the special effects of the Daleks exploding. It's just the clock is a gap. Like it just feels like somebody messed up because how do you fail to shoot a clock for 60 seconds? Yeah. How can you not do that? Like it's such an easy shot to get. As far as like the ticking clock goes, it's like a writing trope. You know, I understand why Terry Nation does it, because if you add in the ticking clock element, suddenly there's drama. Suddenly, oh my god, we have to get this done in a certain amount of time. You'll see it as soon as you know what the ticking clock trope is. You will see it in so much media because it's one of those like core writing story things. You know.
So we see Daleks falling down. We see Daleks melt. One of the Daleks is like a disfigured toy that was melted, and they just cut to that for a bit. There's a great shot where Eddie Powell His brother, Eddie Powell, was the guy who twisted his ankle earlier on. His brother came on set, Joe Powell. He was the next SAS commando and did the stunt to the man and falling down the bomb hole. He accidentally rips the claw off the Dalek, and the next shot it just magically reappears.
It was just they can grow arms back, these Daleks, really fast. But yeah, I like the Daleks being destroyed. I really like the one that melts. I think the one that melts is the best looking one. It's so cool to see all that like metal like crumble in on itself, because all the footage is like reversed and sped up, and it's been messed with to make it look funky. But of course, Tom manages to.
Bernard Cribbins runs outside, and the Dalek stops him in his tracks, and the Dalek just kind of stares at him for a bit. And then suddenly the Dalek gets covered up by like a cloak.
Yeah, it's great. It's dumb. There's so many dumb moments in this and like awkward blocking where they're like oh. But like I feel like that happens quite a bit with Daleks, especially back in this era where they're like because they're not really a threat and they're kind of a threat and they don't really know how to make people get around the Daleks, and they end up being a bit bumbling and a bit awkward to maneuver.
I will say the low angle shot of the Dalek looking down at Tom is intimidating. I do love that shot. The getting covered up by the cloak does remind me of the end of the Damons, where it was either Mike Yates or Benton when the Master tries to escape at the end of the story, he takes off his cloak and throws it on the head of either Mike Yates or Benton, and he just falls over.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah.
He just falls over.
That's what else are you gonna do? Someone puts a sheet on your head, you fall asleep. That's nighttime. Lights out. Like,
oh god.
But everything starts to explode. The mine explodes, and then the ship like takes off, and it's this really nice shot of it like turning and slowly crashing into the mine below. I wish it was a little bit faster. It feels like it's slightly too slow, and it like. Because it is just that little bit too slow, when it crashes against like the radio tower at the mine shaft, then you're like, oh, that's a toy, and then everything explodes. Just because the way that things interact with themselves, they don't interact like metal crashing into metal would interact. But it's a really cool shot.
There's also some weird ADR where Peter Cushing is delivering a line, then you can hear the audio cut out just at the very last millisecond. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, What's even weirder about that line is like he's talking to Wiley or Wiry or whatever his name is, and the audio cuts off as he's like, oh well, that's fine, Wiley, and it like cuts off right the Y, and he continues his monologue talking, but then at the end of that monologue he goes, isn't that right, Susie? I was like, wait, you weren't talking to her, you were talking to the other guy. Why are you suddenly talking to Susan? Like,
yeah. Yeah, it's really bizarre. But yeah, they kind of wrote themselves out in a corner here, because they can't cut to the big emotional farewell speech where they write off Susan's character, because Susan is like 6 years old.
She's a child. She's like, she's so small.
But they could have easily done it with Louise or something. Like, give her something to do. Give her some. Give Louise a love interest.
But if they were to write that ending, they would have to rewrite so much of the film to make Louise actually do something. But if they were to just tack that ending onto the script that they've already got, I think I would hate it more that Louise does nothing and then is just shipped off to a man. Yeah, at the end, Like, I think her being useless and a empty void is better than her just being a like sexist symbol of like women get married, bye. But yeah, everybody walks away from the explosion, and then we cut to everybody teleported into the TARDIS. I guess that it being blocked by all that rubble's not a problem anymore. Yeah,
it's just easy to fix. I guess you could imagine that the entire town helps the Doctor and the companions remove the rubble, like all 30 people or whatever.
I guess.
Like, he did save our lives.
I guess. But they're in the TARDIS, and they're going to go drop off Tom back home, who's back in his police uniform and looking all spiff and spaff. But they're going to drop him off, and this is where it gets a bit weird. A few minutes before he gets knocked out by the robbers.
Yeah.
Which creates a lot of paradoxes.
Yeah.
The notably, like, he was going back into his own time stream. Surely he'll see himself get knocked out, and then there'll be two versions of himself. Also, if that doesn't happen, and say, like, his past self just kind of vanishes, and he knocks out the cop, wouldn't that create a timeline where he would never run into the TARDIS? Like, he would, because he got the criminals, he would never have to run into the TARDIS, and therefore he would never travel back in time to knock out the criminals, which means that he would still get knocked out by the criminals, because, like, it's a paradox. It doesn't work. But the movie's not concerned about paradoxes, because why would you? If you're writing a time travel story, why would you have to think about paradoxes?
Like, at the end of the movie, have Bernard Cribbins get a copy of tomorrow's newspaper, find out where these people go off to, where their base is.
Their hideout.
Yeah, where the hideout
counting
is.
Money.
And then bring the TARDIS inside the hideout, and then Bernard Cribbins can arrest them,
Yeah.
But, if you ignore the gaps in logic, this is a great way to end the movie where Bernard Cribbins is victorious.
I can't ignore a paradox that big. Like, it's such a blatant, how does time travel work in this story? Like, they didn't think about how time travel functions.
On the audio commentary with Mark Gatiss and Robert Shearman, one of them says that there's no third movie because Peter Cushing writes himself out of existence with his paradox here.
He does.
That's why there's no third movie, folks.
Yeah.
We're about to be erased by history as we wave.
Yeah, which is, like, I believe that as an ending. That's a headcanon ending for me, because that's the only way that this makes sense.
Yeah, I do like this ending compared to the first draft when Tom was just a regular man. In the first ending, Susan would let Tom choose to go forward in the future, then back to the past again, which was meant to mirror the ending to the first film. If you remember the first film, some giant Roman soldiers started running up to the TARDIS.
Oh my god, yeah, the huge guys. So they were gigantic, yeah.
But I do like this ending a bit better, even though it doesn't make any kind of sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense. But he gets the bad guys. They wave goodbye. We get the end on the screen, and that is the end of Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD, the dumbest title for a movie of all time. And also, this has been like a 4-hour podcast.
No, it's probably
3.5 hours.
It's probably been closer to 3 hours. I don't know, but it's been a long one.
It has, yeah. This has been a crazy long recording. Our longest episode in a very long time. But why don't you wrap us up here, Scott, with some of your final thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, it may sound negative towards this movie, but only because when we're sitting here, we have to look at it with a critical eye, and a lot of things don't hold up when you're looking at it like that. But I do like this movie a lot when I'm just sitting down relaxing with a can of Coke, It's a nice relaxing time. I do like this movie. I do like how dark it gets. We didn't even address like the Robo-Men and how grim the idea of the zombies are, basically. It's a dark movie.
It's Daleks Cybermen, yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoy this film. I would say it's better in the first film because you can feel there's way more ambition and more special effects. And I just love watching Daleks go explosion, I just love watching Daleks explode. So I enjoy this movie a lot. How about you?
I like parts of this movie. I think I want to like this movie more than I actually do. Like the first movie, I can see and I understand every single way that this movie is better than the first movie, from a technical place, from a pacing place, from a story place. But there's something charming about the first movie that I think is missing in this one. You know, like there was this, and I think honestly, I think it could just be the fact that Peter Cushing has nothing to do. Like in the first movie, you know, like we get to see a lot more of Peter Cushing. We get to see Doctor Who with his family doing a lot more weird stuff and having a lot more to say. Whereas in this, he's not really doing much of anything. He's just kind of bumbling around. And the only bit of interest story-wise I really had was with Bernard Cribbins and what he was up to. But that's a really small part of the movie. And even then, the stuff that he was doing, the slapstick stuff, didn't hit for me. You know, I like the way that this movie is shot. I like the model work. I like the lighting at times. I like the cinematography. I like so much of this movie, but just together as a whole, there's something not quite fitting right for me. I still had a good time. I don't think I'm gonna go out of my way to watch it again unless I'm like with somebody and they're like, I've never seen this. What's this about? And I want to watch it. And I'd be like, God damn it! Get me a drink. I'm gonna be very drunk watching this. But like, I don't know if I would want to watch it like on my own again. Maybe if it was to come back into theaters, I would go in and see it in theaters just for the experience of doing it. But I also might fall asleep if I was to see it in cinemas. But like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
See, I had the exact opposite experience. I was almost falling asleep with the first one because it's so slow. And there's so many scenes of just Daleks talking, and we did not like the scenes of the Daleks talking in the first movie. Whereas here, the Daleks are less of a focus. They don't really talk to each other, which I like a lot better. And yeah, this movie does miss out on having Doctor and Susan be together, because that's like your biggest pull to the movie. It's like they're magnets or something in the center of the earth. I can understand why you may not like this movie as much as the first one, though. I understand. I just like the action.
I mean, like,
in this movie.
I don't like the first one either. Like, both of these movies are like 3/4 out of 10. Yeah. But it's just like tiny little things. I like the vibe of it. I like the artwork. I like the posters. I really want to have some sugar puffs. I don't know about you. I kind of fancy some sugar puffs right now.
Or what are they called now? Honey Monster Puffs?
Honey Monster. I think they're just called Honey Monster cereal, which is a less catchy name. Why not just call them like Honey Puffs?
Yeah.
Rather than But
it's strange.
It is strange. It is almost midnight, and we have been recording for such a goddamn long time, so I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you very much if you listened to this. Happy second anniversary to the podcast. Crazy. You can find us on Facebook at Who Watches Who and on Twitter at Watches Doctor. You can watch this podcast in video form if you want to look at our faces for 25 hours at youtube.com/@whowatcheswhopod. We'll be there in video form. You can also listen to it in audio form anywhere you get podcasts. There's a lot of links in the description. Use them at your discretion. It's a great time. Next week is the end of the month, which means we will be wrapping up all the Doctor Who news from May. How are we at the end of May?
I know, it's fucking insane.
What?
But yeah, if you expect us to break down the trailer for the end of the month news, we actually just covered the trailer this Saturday. So if you want to go back down the feed, you can listen to our thoughts on the trailer. To be fair, we didn't have much thoughts. We didn't get shown much, but
short trailer. It was a short trailer, yeah. But yeah, that is all. Next week we're with the news, and then after that we will be looking into the 6th Doctor with Colin Baker,
and
so
we're seeing Patrick Troughton again because we're doing the 2 Doctors. So that's gonna be fun.
Fancy. Anyway, let's wrap up this podcast, shall we? Bye.